And to that piece of lieutenant that's always on his podcast, bash us, him.
All right, intentional roll call.
That's right. Good morning, everybody. Shout out to Hassan. Hassan says he hasn't been here in a while. He had a death in the family. Hassan, our condolences to you. Whoever you lost in your life, we're here for you, brother. Reach out. You got my phone number. Text me, John. So listen, shout out to our friends and listeners. If you could give a shout out to Hassan. Hassan's been with us every day. Hardworking cop out there. Be safe, brother. Hey, listen, coming off the weekend, it's a nice long weekend, finally. John, you got a hell of a tan. I know you were at the game. So how was it?
Yeah, no, I went to the Jets. And I'm not a Jets fan, by the way. I'm a Giants fan. But I went to it was a good game, though. I went to Jets versus Jacksonville Jaguars. Real good game. Devonta Adams and Rodgers, they really they had some spotlights in them old selves. So great game. I was in the sun the whole time, so I got pretty dark, but busy weekend, holiday parties, seeing everybody, seeing old faces, great time, getting ready to come home. I'm excited for that, see everybody. But I've been hearing crazy things about the amount of DWI arrests from off-duty NYPD cops leaving Christmas parties, and it's I think it's something that we got to touch on because it's I'm not going to say, listen, I was young and dumb at one point too, but I took that feather out of the hat when I became a cop, man. I was like, you know what? I'm not losing my career over some dumb shit. Especially now, we used to have to call cabs or walk or take the bus or the train. Uber, it's so easy, man. Just Uber or figure it out, like where you're going to go. I don't know. What do you think? What do you think about the amount of people that got DWI'd leaving Christmas parties this past 2 weeks?
Well, first of all, for one, obviously there's zero camaraderie left anymore, right? So you have to be extremely smart out there right now. No one's going to give you a pass. And honestly, if you're D-Way, should you? If you go out there and wreck and hit someone or hurt someone, yeah, all bets are off. But there's no camaraderie anymore. If you just were a little bit under the weather behind the wheel, no one's hooking you up. But even beside that, obviously, it just shows everything that we talk about in this podcast, the emasculation of this police department or any law enforcement agency. It shows in a thing like it. It shows in an incident like this, right? Because when we were cops, we had veteran cops out there that would police us, right? They were veteran cops like, hey, kid, listen, don't drive home, right? They would tell you. We didn't have Uber back then, but I'm sure now it could be, hey, jump in an Uber. Or you know what? Give me those keys. And you don't have that anymore. And where's the leadership? It shows right now there's zero leadership through and through when it comes to this police department. We're not talking about one DWI. We're talking about 6. 6 independent from each other. That's insane. It just shows, John, there's no more veterans. Think about it. When we were young rookie cops, there were plenty of veteran cops out there. They would have policed us. No. You ain't driving. Give me those keys. Jump in a cab. Oh, they would have paid for you. They would abuse you the next day. But you know what? It would have been well deserved. But they would look out for you.
No, yeah, it's sad, bro. Where was the leadership inside of the actual event too? To be like, all right, that guy's not driving home. That guy's not driving home. That girl's not driving home. And that's a big. It's a lot of things. It's not just the leadership, like you said it earlier. It's the camaraderie too, because you're not going to see everything, right? You're the boss. You're not going to see anything. I know me. I didn't really stay long at these Christmas parties. I went. I said hello to everybody, and then I was like, how you doing? How you doing? And then sometimes I would break off with some of my more close knit friends, and we'd go somewhere else or we'd hang out. But I didn't spend too much time at these Christmas parties. But yeah, I think that the camaraderie amongst each other too. Who's not drinking, right? I'll pick you up. I'll drive. There's a lot of people that don't drink. I didn't drink for a long time. I'm like, I'll drive, no problem. People that are drinking, figure out a way that you're not gonna get behind the wheel that night. It's not that hard, and it's not just for that too. It's for a lot of different things, man. It's not just for it's Christmas season. You got to go to the precinct Christmas party. Think about it. You're going out with the guys. Take it out of your hat. You know, you're going to lose your career. You could potentially lose your freedom. You could kill some innocent person. I think a lot of these DWI stemmed from an accident. So, you know, people, oh, do the right thing, do the right thing. I don't know what the right thing is anymore, man. You're pulling cars over that are bobbing and weaving. You got your body camera on. You know, it's over. Like, you know, there's no really more discretion. And I can't really blame anybody at this point. You know, why you put those people in that situation? They didn't put you in that situation. And the other thing is, you know, you could kill somebody. So it's not, you know, it's you're no different than anybody else. There's no reason that you could handle your alcohol better than anybody else, and you should be able to drive. Stupid.
You know, I want to put an emphasis on what you said because I agree. Years ago, excuse me, years ago was much different. You know, if someone was behind the wheel and they were under the weather, you could do the right thing by them. But today's day, honestly, the one that should be doing the right thing is the cop getting behind the wheel, because you're putting that person, that law enforcement officer that pulls you over, you're putting them in a precarious position. There's cameras everywhere. There's drones everywhere. There's body cameras everywhere. Everything's being recorded, and discretion has been taken out of the equation completely. And not only will you be charged with DWI, but that person will be charged also with this justice system that we have. So 516 Diecast, shout out to you. $4.99 coffee and donuts at a podcast says, good morning, my brothers. Good morning to you. Send you both prayers for a safe week for you and your family. Likewise, thank you so much. You know, back to what we're saying here. I think that getting behind the wheel, you have to be the one to do the right thing. No longer can you actually put any blame on the law enforcement officer that pulls you over. You put them in that position with all these cameras out there. I mean, especially right now, we really need to police each other. If you're out there and you're going to a party, of course, go out there and enjoy yourself. But I used to joke around with my guys, and I used to always say this: you can't have a designated drunk driver. There has to be someone that's prepared. You know, go out, have a good time. But listen, there's always one guy in the group that doesn't drink, or you make plans. And like you said, today's day, take the Uber. Even if it's $100, if you're far away, it's $100. I think $100 is a lot better than having to get suspended, having to have your picture in the paper, having to embarrass your family, having to spend thousands on a court case. I think $100 is a lot better. So, amazing Ant, shout out to you. Coffee and donuts, $9.99. Says, good morning, truth tellers, 100. Regarding holiday parties and DWI condolences to Hassan and family. Yeah, absolutely. Shout out to Hassan. Amazing Ant. Thank you so much. I just saw a little bit. I didn't finish it. If you get a chance, Amazing Ant was co-hosting on Duty Ron on YouTube. He's got his own show. Check it out. So shout out to you.
Yeah, you know, and then I know a lot of guys don't live in the city too, and that's a problem too. So, but like that's where the camaraderie comes in. Like, all right, dude, you know, come back to my house, leave your car here, sleep it off, or you know, maybe the NYPD could put their big boy pants on for one time and say, listen, after the holiday party, if you can't make it home, go over to this precinct. The lounge is open. You know, like. It's like one of those taboo things. Like you're not allowed to be drunk ever as a cop, and it's so far from reality that it's ridiculous. I know guys that like they were only sober when they were at work, you know, and then you know it's a shame. Great guys, but it's just not it's not realistic. I you know I think that you know alcohol is definitely not talked about as much as it should be in America. I think it's a big problem. You know, I'm not anti-alcohol, nothing. I drink once in a blue moon, you know, but I've seen it do a lot of damage to a lot of people's lives. And then I've seen it damage people that aren't really habitual users of alcohol also, that it damaged their lives for short bursts of moment, you know, going out one night, party, Christmas party. So, you know, my old midnight lieutenant, when I was a rookie, he used to say, I just take that feather out of the hat. They're not going to jam me up for that. They're not going to take my career away from that. I just don't drink. I take the feather. And that always like stuck in my head. I don't know why till today, even if like, you know, I'm at a party and I'm driving, I know I'm driving. Someone's like, have a drink. His voice like rings in my head. I'm like, nah, I'm taking the the feather out. I'm taking that feather out of my hat. You're not getting me for that. You're not getting me for that. I'm not because and again, I'm not really a big drinker. So if I have a drink, I'm having one drink, right? So I'm not sitting there going, oh yeah, I'm gonna get hammered and plastered. No, but now I have one drink. Legally, am I allowed to drive? No. I don't care what you tell me. And I'm 205 pounds, so I have one drink. I'm not drunk. I'm not anything, but I could potentially blow. I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about driving some moron bashing into me. And next thing I know, I'm taking a breathalyzer. Or some idiot on an electric scooter comes flying into you, kills himself. Next thing you know, you're going to jail for murder. You're like, I'm not even drunk, dude. I didn't even do anything. I was driving, and this electric scooter came into me 1,000 miles an hour, killed himself, and now I'm going to jail for manslaughter. It's serious, man. I mean, I've seen people get more time for DWIs than I've seen for a lot of other horrible crimes.
Patrick Donahue nails it right here. This is what I'm saying. I agree with him. So he says, I've done the research. It's cheaper to take Uber from LA to New York, approximately $6,500 for that ride. DWI arrest as a member of the service, $23,000 suspension, insurance increase, loss of overtime, while modified attorney cost. Hands down, I agree with you, right? And that's what the point is. You're right. So there are guys that live out the city, make arrangements, even if if you really want to go to the party. Of course, listen, if you have friends that are close by, make arrangements. Well, get a hotel room for the night, Get a hotel room for a cheap hotel room where you could crash. You get a cheap hotel room for $150. It's a lot better than crashing and having all these things that sit on your shoulder. Especially DWI. It's like one of those stages. It takes years to go away. So I agree. Spend the money, make arrangements, and that's not just for a Christmas party. That's anytime. But at the same token, John, you bring up a great point. I've been saying for years, I think that it's a little outdated, this idea of being unfit for duty, that you're supposed to be fit for duty at all times. And it's not realistic. I mean, the bottom line is, and it can happen to all of us, John, and it's probably happened to you. You go to a party. Let's say you run around all day. You didn't get a chance to eat. You go into a party, and even if you have a good threshold for alcohol, I don't drink a lot, but I have a drink here and there. I don't drink a lot. But at the same time, you run around all day. You didn't get a chance to eat. You go to the party, and you have a drink. You're toasting with people before you even have something to eat. And because you haven't eaten all day, it hits you really quick. And now you're a little bit under the weather than you normally should be. Should that person, God forbid, there is some type of situation, should that person be deemed unfit for duty? This is a little outdated. I think it's how you present yourself unfit for duty. If you are irresponsible and now you get behind the wheel, if you're irresponsible and do something, but just this idea of being fit for duty all the times, I think it's a little outdated. It needs to be revamped and reanalyzed. What do you think?
I don't like that. I didn't like that the whole thing went, oh, if you shoot somebody, you have to take a breathalyzer. If you're in a shooting, you have to take a breathalyzer. I think that stemmed after the Sean Bell incident, if I'm not mistaken. Sean Bell, undercover cop, he's in the bar, he has a couple of drinks, gets into a shooting. Supposedly, Sean Bell was unarmed. I don't know how true that is or not. And then the job comes out with, from now on, you have to take a breathalyzer anytime you're in a shooting. So what does that mean? You know what I mean? And then I think about it, and I'm like, so I'm sitting in my house. Me and my wife are having a drink. It's Christmas time. I have family over. We have a toast. I have a drink. Later that night, I go to bed. Someone breaks in my house. And God forbid I have to use deadly physical force. What did that deem? Like, what did that breathalyzer deem? I had alcohol? Okay. What did I do wrong? Same instant, I could leave a bar. Not that you should have a gun on you while you're in a bar, but but who knows? You stop one day after work, you have your gun on you, you have a quick drink. All right, fellas, see you later. You leave the bar in the city. Next thing you know, you're getting surrounded by 10 dudes that are going to kill you, that you locked up or whatever it is, and you use deadly physical force or you use your firearm. Okay, I blew .04. What'd you deem? What did I do wrong? What were my actions that were improper? Why is that added? Why is that an added piece? Do we breathalyze non-members of the service when they're in a shooting? No. So why are we breathalyzing members of the service? And it's just one of those things. And I get it. I'm not trying to say I'm big on you should never be boxed. You should never be out of your face. I don't even like drinking because I don't like to get even down just a little bit where my senses are off. But never mind, you're going to be hammered and now your senses are all thrown back. But what did we prove by the breathalyzer? So I guess I'm not saying that it's outdated. I just think the way we it's like very taboo in the department to talk about. You look at these funerals. It was one of the things that always bothered me. If you look at FDNY for funerals, parades, they're in uniform and drinking. And I don't agree with that at all because they make themselves look like a bunch of idiots and they make their organization look like a bunch of idiots and they do a lot of dumb things. But it's kind of always overlooked for them. And then, we had, I don't remember. I believe it was Simonson's death. Simonson was murdered. And I believe when Simonson got killed, that at his funeral, one of the guys he worked with had a beer on the train. Not bothering anybody, had a beer on the train. Him and the sergeant got suspended. And I'm like, that's ridiculous, man. I remember going to work the next day. I remember everybody. I think I was a boss at the time. I was a sergeant at the time. And I was talking to like a inspector and like a couple lieutenants, a couple sergeants, and they're like, you know better. And I'm like, oh, stop. I was like, that's why I hate this job. I was like, that's why I hate this job. It's because I get it. It's stupid. But it should have been swept under the rug. I'm like, I've seen brawls, guys in full dress uniform, drunk, guys going to the hospital. It's on the front cover of the paper, FDNY. And next thing you know, that Staten Island Advance is doing a retraction. No, those weren't firefighters. It's like they were in dress uniform. The one dude's like chain swinging with his FDNY numbered shield swinging. And I'm like, that wasn't a brawl. I'm like, if that was us, we'd all get collared, suspended, modified. And I'm like, we got no heart for each other at all, ever. Like it's crazy. Like we can't make, the old saying, like, oh, if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around, did it really fall? Did it make a sound or whatever? Tree, no one's around, did it make a sound? And like, it always makes a sound in the police department. Like when there's nothing that needs to happen, there's some things happen. It's like, all right, there was a mistake made. Let's correct it and just move forward. No, let's destroy this guy. Let's destroy this guy because one of his friends got killed and he had a beer on the train, which you're allowed to do, by the way, legally.
Well, I think the problem is, and this is why it's so great to be in retirement. So, retired guys can speak to this. I always make this joke. I say, excuse me, in retirement, you get to be human again, right? You think like a normal human being, right? If someone was to attack you, you would respond, right? If you're allowed to show emotion, you can be human again. And you don't have to worry about these sort of things. For instance, it's unfortunate, but as a cop, you're always hesitant to be a normal human being, right? If someone was to attack you, you have to worry, like, well, do I actually respond or do I try to get out of here and run because, did I have a drink today? Or what was I doing? Where is my gun properly, holstered? Whatever the case is, because I remember it happened to me years ago. And this is what I say by acting human. Years ago, I was living in Astoria and there was two guys by my glass door acting really shady, all hoodied up. And I stopped them at the door and I questioned them. And they pulled a knife on me. And I had to get into a fight with these two guys. And they pulled a knife on me. And someone called the police, said a white guy was beating up these two black guys. Meanwhile, they pulled a knife on me. Thank God I survived. But immediately when the job responded, when they got there, honestly, I felt like, they could care less if I was okay. I got a guy who pulled a knife on me. Right away, they wanted to know, did I have a drink? Meanwhile, it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Just happened to be. I was, after this, I was going to a supervisor's dinner with the job. All they could care less is, did I have a drink? Where's my gun? To make sure everything's squared away. They could care less, am I okay? Meanwhile, I was fortunate enough to not get stabbed. And, and the whole thing's on video. Thank God, shout out to Ron Lace in the retirement, because Ron Lace responded. And actually, if it wasn't for him, I would have probably been modified or suspended. Meanwhile, all I was doing was defending myself. And amazing Ann says she remembers that day. Yeah, thank you so much. I went to the dinner right afterwards. And thank God I'm okay. But they could care less if I was okay. That's why they cared. I had the precinct inside my apartment. I went and took a shower while I was there. I walked right my towel. I could care less at that point because they didn't care if I was okay. All they could care is, did I have my gun? Did I have a drink? What was going on? They were trying to find a way to modify me or suspend me. And thank God, shout out to Ron Lason. He was there. He did the right thing. So no, he defended himself, right? All they were asking was, why did you question them at the door? Why didn't you just go inside into the building? Because I knew and I perceived there was a threat. Just like Daniel Penny did, I perceived the threat. And sure enough, the one adversary that pulled his knife on me was wanted for a shooting in PSA 9. So just to show you, and thank God I'm okay, but they could care less if I was okay. They didn't care. I could have got stabbed. They didn't care. They wanted to make sure that everything was squared away. Anyway, Tom Joyce, shout out to you. Coffee and Donuts, huge hit. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You're always so kind to John and myself. $100. His Merry Christmas. Wishing all a wonderful and safe holiday. Unfiltered, keep up the great work. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Shout out to you. But John, thank God I said to myself, it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I didn't have a drink. I didn't have my gun on me. And I felt like, wow, does anybody care? Thank God that these two young guys, thank God I managed to get myself out of there. And even with training, it's still tough fighting two guys. The first guy threw a punch at me. I was able to weave out of it. I deployed a strike. And next thing you know, we're fighting. There was a big flower bed. I fell over. He fell on top of me. I was able to turn him around. And next thing you know, fight with two guys. I was able to get the better hand, but then they pulled a knife on me. I was able to get back inside. Nobody cared. They didn't care if I was okay. They cared about, are all the ducks in a row? And we have to stop treating each other like this. We have to treat each other like human beings. But right away, it's about covering yourself. So again, if it wasn't for Ron Lason, he was the one that did the right thing. I could have got someone, that didn't have a pair of balls.
It's crazy, bro. It really is. Tom, Merry Christmas, brother. Listen, we'd love to have you on one day if you want to come on, just tell us your stories or, just memorialize your career. You don't have to get in depth or anything. We just had Ron Lason on. We'll release that episode during the holidays. We're going to be doing a lot more interviews this week, and then we're going to trip some out over the holidays. So, any of you guys, Patrick Donahue, any retired guys want to come on, memorialize your career, always welcome. Amazing Aunt, so appreciate you, brother. Thanks a lot. Merry Christmas. Yeah, I think the big problem with off-duty incidents is, and I've experienced it myself, both as a cop and as a supervisor, where my brain doesn't work. It's like this, it's an off-duty. It's like, okay, like, why am I looking at? And I remember to myself, it happened to me twice as a cop and as a supervisor, where I was like, why am I looking at this differently? Because this is an MOS. Why am I not judging this situation as if it's just any Joe Schmo? Like, I got to take and that's like how I want to attack any situation. Like, I don't want to be invested in it. And I feel like the job is emotionally invested when it's an off-duty incident, and they shouldn't be. It should be the totality of the circumstances, right? And I think that's something that's almost ingrained in you as a rookie in the academy, and when you're a young supervisor. I think that's ingrained in you to actually look at that job much differently. Now, I understand, like, it is a different situation. Like, we have to look out for everything. This is, again, like I always say, you're a rock star with the muscle without the money. If you're a cop, like, you're going to be on the front cover of the paper, bro. Like, I don't know what's hard to understand about that, but you guys as celebrities, I don't know that you don't understand that. Whether you think you are, you're not, mess up. You're going to see how much of a celebrity you are. You're going to be on the front cover of the paper. You're going to make national news. If you're lucky, you're not, but more than likely, you're gonna. So I understand that this is a newsworthy incident. I understand that we're gonna look at this a lot different, but we really take our like thinking caps off when it comes to off-duty incidents. And I always thought about that, and I always thought about how emasculated being an off-duty cop, the feeling of that is. I just never, you know, when I'm faced in dangerous situations, I get afraid, and then that makes me react to the point where I'm like, okay, I don't care anymore. Whatever it is, it is. You know, if this is the day I'm going to lose my job, this is the day I'm going to lose my job, because, you know, following my brother-in-law's advice really didn't help me. He was like, don't go work on Staten Island. And then next thing I know, I'm doing anti-crime on Staten Island, and I'm locking up people. And now I wasn't a shy kid when I was young. Everyone knew where I lived, and everybody knows me. So, you know, like everybody knew like where I lived. Everybody knew everything about me. And, you know, I've ran into a lot of people that I locked up, and I'm like, every time, if there was any type of little back and forth, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to get jammed up today. It is what it is. And meanwhile, I didn't do anything wrong. I'm being confronted by some half-ass gangster that like is going to thinks he's going to threaten me, or threaten me when I'm with my family or my kids. Like, I'm not having it. And I'm like, yeah, today's the day I'm getting jammed up. And I'm like, why is that? Why is that? You know, and you know that you're going to get, I had, dude, how about this situation? My wife one day, summertime, and she's like, hey, could you do me a favor in the backyard? She goes, hey, could you do me a favor and go to the store or whatever? I don't remember what the hell she wanted. I was like, yeah, no problem. And if I think I was annoyed about it, because I think we have people coming over, and I'm like, you know, I'm like, oh, you got to send me. You couldn't have told me before. I just went to the store. So she's like, do me a favor, go to the store. So I go to the store, and I go walk out of my house, and I just hear screaming across the street from my house. Screaming. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And you know, instantly everything changes, and I see this young kid on the side of the road, across the street from my house. My block on Staten Island is pretty big. So he looks like he just got ran over. So I'm like, holy shit. So I run over. I start talking to the kid. He's fine. I call 911. I'm like, listen, I got a kid. He just got hit by a car. The young kid pulls back around, pulls his car right back around. And he's like, oh my God, I didn't see him. He's crying. I was like, relax, you're fine. Just sit on the sidewalk. You're fine. Just stay here. You did the right thing. He's like, oh my God. You know, I was like, don't worry about it. You did the right thing. You did the right thing. You know, I'm talking to the young man. He's I think he was on the spectrum. I think he was autistic, but he was able to give me his phone number and all that. So I called the parents. Cops get there. Sergeant gets there. He's like, what's going on? I was like, nah, bro, I just walked out of my house, and, you know, this kid was screaming on the floor. I think, you know, that dude, I think that kid was driving, and he just clipped him by accident, but he didn't leave the scene. He came right back around. He sat here. He's right there. He has his license. The kid gave me his license. He's like, what was your involvement in it? I'm like, I walked out of my house. Kid was laying on the floor screaming, and I called 911 to help, to aid him. He's like, yeah, but were you in the car? I'm like, dude, I was like, do me a favor, call the duty captain. I was like, because you're having a hard time understanding what I'm telling you. I was like, I could tell you again. I walked out of my house. I heard the kid screaming on the floor. I seen him on the floor. I ran over. I rendered aid. I called 911 to get him an ambulance. The kid came back around. I ascertained what the situation was. I got in contact with the kid's parents because he's autistic. And I waited for you, and I stayed with the kid and comforted both of them. And he's like, you sure you weren't involved in it? I was like, bro, get the duty captain. Get the duty captain. Obviously, I was like, I don't want this misconstrued later. Get the duty captain. And the lieutenant came, squashed it all, and I left. But I was like, you can't even help somebody. You can't even, like, you were attacked. You're the bad guy. You were attacked, almost stabbed to death by two criminals who one was wanted for murder. And then I'm rendering aid, and you're ready to jam me up. And I'm like, where's the humanity in any of this? They totally emasculate us.
That's my point. You can't think like a normal person. And I'm glad, by the way, I appreciate what you said, because that's true. If you're involved, if you're potentially about to get into a confrontation, you should have fear. You should be nervous. That's normal. If you're not nervous, there's something wrong with you. You know, even the most highly trained MMA fighter gets nervous. The reason why they run around before they fight in a ring is because they're nervous. right? They're getting all those nerves out. You watch their extremities and you can see the nerves coming out. That's normal. You should be nervous, right? You're about to get into a combative situation. Your body's be prepared for that. But as an NYPD cop, most of us, we have those normal fears, and I had those fears that day also. But at some point, you're prepared for combat, those fears go away, and you start to think about the job. That's what's not normal. That's the real fear. Even that day, like I knew, I saw the way these guys were at my door, and I had questioned them. They started pulling up his pants. I knew what that means. And if I wasn't a cop, when he started pulling up his pants, I would have hit him right there because I knew it was coming, right? That was the sign. That was the telltale. He's getting ready. But no, I thought about the job, and I was trying to de-escalate the situation and figure out what's going on. But eventually I was cornered. He took a swing at me when the other guy got behind me, and he took the opportunity. But again, you can't be a normal human being. You're right. A normal human being would say, hey, what happened, right? Hey, thank you so much. Hey, you're an off-duty cop or off-duty sergeant. Great, can you help me out with this? That would be normal, right? Oh, what happened? But right away, because of the micromanagement, because of the policies of the job, this cop that responded, or was a sergeant, it wasn't thinking normal. Like, he's trying to make sure that you're not involved, and if you are, all his I's are dotted and all his T's are crossed because he might get in trouble. That's what's wrong with the job. And I say the job is people. There has to be people at the upper echelon that have to say, hey, the policies that we have are wrong. We're actually. It's funny when they say cops are cops 24/7, right? Not the NYPD, because a normal cop in the NYPD is thinking, how do I avoid getting involved in any potential situation because of the NYPD, because of the policies? No one's out there saying, oh wow, I see something wrong, let me go investigate it. And I'm not saying you should do that, but at the same token, there are things that happen. In retirement, I don't think you should get involved in fights. You should go to the bar and someone looks at you wrong, you should get into a fight. I don't do that now. But there are times where you might have to be involved in something that you have to protect yourself. I mean, and it's a shame. I'm sure there's plenty of cops out there that their wives have been accosted and they didn't protect them because they're more afraid of the job. And that's what's sad. You can't be a human. And that's why I say in retirement, you could be a human again. But if we had the right leadership, and it's not just this leadership, we're very critical of this administration. It's prior administrations also that emasculate men from actually doing the right thing off duty. This is something that needs to be changed, and hopefully it can be changed one day. Definitely not with this administration.
Yeah, and listen, at the same time, I went to Jersey one time, and there's this little meathead, and he fucking shoulder bumps me. I'm like, dude, what's your problem, bro? Like, and he mounts off to me, and I was like, dude, I'm not looking to fight anybody. I'm here with my friends. Like, what's your problem? I was like, I'm just sitting here. I'm not looking to fight. Whatever. He bounces, and the kid goes, oh, I'm surprised he didn't sucker punch you. And I was like, why? He's like, he's a local cop. He comes here every weekend. He starts fights, and then the cops lock up the person he fights. And then I see that you don't want cops to just be walking around off duty like idiots, young 23-year-old kids full of testosterone. Yeah, look at me and getting into fights. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying have the ability to defend yourself or others, take action, and I'm saying help people, right? Even when we help somebody on the street, it's like, oh, well, what'd you do? You ran him over? It's like, what the fuck? What are you talking about, bro? Would you ask a normal person on the street that question? You wouldn't have asked anybody else that question. You only asked because I was a sergeant. You wouldn't have asked anybody else that question. I was like, what do you mean? Was in the car? It's wild, And then, like I said, and then cops become victims too. And like you just described that perfectly, right? You knew he was gonna hit you, right? He grabbed his pants. You knew it. You knew better. You knew you should have punched him in his face first. You knew it, but you didn't. Cost you your life. Could have cost you a lot of different things. You know what I mean? And you didn't. And that's another problem too, is when you're encountering cops could be victims. Cops could be victims of people that know that they're cops or people that don't know they're cops. And they're less quickly to defend themselves, defend others, or help people off duty for those reasons. And that's, I think, something that I'm not saying that it shouldn't be properly investigated. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't take those investigations seriously, but I'm just saying like it should be treated as every other situation. A little bit more scrutiny, little bit more care, but under overall, what happened here, time out. And that's how we should step back. Like when you're a supervisor responding to that scene, you're a cop responding to that scene, step back. What would I do here if this person wasn't a cop? Oh, you stole makeup from the store. Okay, what would I do for a normal person? I'd lock you up? Okay, yeah, you're under arrest. Oh, you crashed into this person's house, DWI? What would I do? I'd lock you up. Okay. You know? Oh, you got assaulted and were robbed? Yeah, take him out of handcuffs right now. Lock that person up. You know, like it's not hard. Like we know what to do. We do it all the time. You know?
Well, that's what I'm saying, right? Be human. I agree. Listen, in retirement or just everyday thing, I don't get into fights over ego. I always say that, right? I train, and I train not because, because I want to fight. I train so I don't have to fight. And it's taught me not to get into fights over ego. If I'm in a bar or a restaurant and someone bumps into me, I'll say, I'm sorry, no problem. I'll buy them a beer. I'm not getting into a fight over ego. Not at all. And neither should anybody. You shouldn't get into a fight over ego. You should avoid those. But there are situations. 2 guys at my door trying to get into the building, looking nefarious, covering their faces. And sure enough, my instincts were on target. Wanted for a shooting, vile perpetrators. That's something different. This is where we should treat our police officers different. If you get into a fight in a bar off duty because of your ego, yeah, you deserve to get suspended. You're stupid, honestly. If you work for any company. By the way, Jesse James, $4.99 coffee and donuts. Shout out to you. Thank you so much. We salute you, brother. We really appreciate it. Like I said, over ego, those things can be avoided, right? You have to be able to take your ego. And sometimes I laugh. For me, I've been bumped into a bar. And I look at the guy, and the guy is like, feeling good. I go, hey, buddy, let me buy you a beer. You know what? And he thinks he got over on me. Like, and I'm laughing. I'm walking away thinking, that guy has no idea. But I just saved his ass today. So, hey, listen, I can walk away and I can feel comfortable with that. And but sometimes there are situations. You're right. Sometimes cops get the upper hand, and cops become victims. I mean, listen, I train. I can be a victim too. I can't beat up 5 guys together. You know what? Even 2 guys, even with training, it was tough. I was older. These guys were in their early 20s. It's still, it's still tough. So, but again, you're not treated like a human being. And that's what it comes down to. Be treated like a human being. Ask questions, common sense questions. These are not questions that we would normally ask because they're afraid. And that's what happens with a micromanaged organization. And I had put out something on Instagram recently about micromanagement. It destroys an organization. It does a lot for critical thinking. It takes away the intelligence. It takes away the ability to think outside the box because people are too scared to make decisions. Micromanagement is the least effective leadership style, not just for law enforcement. Any company, any business, you can read, it just destroys a company. And it destroys the police department especially.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And Scott says, Eric, you're absolutely right. I had 2 off-duty collars, a gun collar in Suffolk and a Rob 1 in Nassau. And the first thing the duty captain and duty inspector wanted to know is, was I drinking? Does it matter? It's just dude just robbed somebody. Does it matter? Yeah, that's crazy, Rob. Scott, I'm sorry. Yeah, that's nuts, dude. But like perps know that too. They know when you're off duty, you're kind of emasculated and you don't want to get into stuff. And it's true. I never liked to go out. Like when I became a cop, I stopped going out because I was very familiar with going out, what happens when you go out and who you run into when you go out. So I didn't want to go out. So I'm dating my wife. We go to a wedding. I go out with her and all her friends, all girls. They're all dressed up. They're like, come on, let's go. I'm like, you're an old man. You don't want to do anything. I'm like, come on. I was like, I really don't want to go. I'm like, it's always a problem. I don't want to go. So they're like, come on, let's go. So sure enough, we go in the bar. I run into some idiot that just got out. Real half-assed wise guy. I think he's in the witness protection program. He's probably watching this right now from the witness protection program right now. But so anyway, so now he knows I'm by myself. He's with all his friends. I'm with 5 girls. So they don't do nothing at the bar. They don't say nothing. He doesn't come over. Nobody balls. But I see it. And I'm like, here we go. Here we go. I'm not drinking, though. I'm driving, so I don't care. I'm like, whatever. Whatever happens, I don't give a shit. So I go outside at the time. My wife smokes cigarettes, the girl. So I go outside with my wife. No, I'm sorry. I go outside with her friend. Because I don't know why. I stepped outside. Dating my wife at the time. Guy comes out. Sorry, I knocked my mic out. But So I
What happened? You got mad? You want to punch him, Mike?
so funny. So I go outside. So I go outside and with one of her friends. The four guys come out. Now my wife, who's my girlfriend at the time, comes out. Guy knew I was with her. And, he comes over, starts trying to talk to her. So she walks away. I don't even say anything. I'm like, no problem. Next girl comes out, same thing. Third girl comes out, he's grabbing her by the arm. So I was like, bro, you don't see that we're all dressed up here? We're all dressed up. We're all together. I said, you could talk to any of the girls you want to talk to. I said, if they want to talk to you, they'll talk to you. And I was actually pointing at my girlfriend at the time, who later became my wife. I said, you want to talk to any of the girls? You talk to them. If they want to talk to you, they're more than welcome to talk to you. I said, but don't corner girls and don't touch any of them. If they want to talk to you, they'll talk to you. So he goes, oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm like, okay. He's like, but don't ever tell me to relax. And I was like, yeah, bro, relax. And instantly, I'm like, I'm going to get jammed up. And I didn't do anything wrong. This kid was looking to start a fight with me because he knew I was a cop. Thankfully, he was smart enough to know that I didn't care and I was willing to get jammed up that day, and nothing happened. He backed down. He's like, come on, I'll buy you a drink. I was like, no. And then the girls were smart enough at that time to believe me, and they're like, all right, John, let's leave. I was like, okay, yeah, let's leave. Thank you for making me come here. Because I didn't want to go. I was like, I'm telling you, I don't want to go. I don't want to go, And I went, but they know that. They know you're emasculated as an off-duty cop, and that's a problem to me. It's a big problem. It should be, you should be a person of presence. Are you going to touch a congressman who's there? No. Are you going to touch a city councilman? No. Why do perps feel it's okay to touch a cop off duty? Because we make them feel like it's okay.
I think you're 100% right. You don't think like a normal human being, right? And I think most cops, most cops, unfortunately, when you hear about these off-duty incidents, most of the time when a cop is involved in a combative situation, usually it's the cop getting their ass kicked. And I've analyzed these things, and I've said the reason why is because you don't think like a normal human being. As I said before, I train in all forms of martial arts my entire life. And when I saw that, especially doing anti-crime, and when I saw this guy pulling up his pants, I knew that was a sign. And I knew if I wasn't a cop and I was a normal human being, while he was talking, pull up his pants, that's when I would have struck immediately. When you're in a, when I compete, if you're fighting, when you're fighting, that's different. That's mutual combat, right? But and you're prepared for it. That's different. But in a self-defense situation, you always strike first. Always strike first so that you go home safe. And I knew when this guy pulled up his pants, and I knew the way he was moving around that he might have had a knife on him or even a gun. I had to act. But because of the job, I second-guessed myself and I was hesitant. And I have to admit that. Because I'm thinking, how do I get out of this situation? Because I wasn't even afraid of these two adversaries. I was afraid of the job. And I should be afraid of those adversaries. I should have been thinking about that because I saw the way the guy was moving around. I thought he had a knife or a gun in his pocket. He kept trying to get to it. Eventually, once we were fighting, he kept trying to get to it. And I was choking him and I kept hitting him so he couldn't get to it. And the other guy jumped on my back. But meanwhile, I'm thinking about the job. And that's, I think it's really crazy. I think it's really crazy when you're not thinking about your own safety. And again, here you are, John, you're in a situation where it's unfortunate. You're at the bar, you're having a good time, and you dating your wife at the time, and it's your job. And you're a man. It's your job to protect her. And that's something that she's going to want to see. She doesn't want you to fight, but she wants to know that you can protect her. And you're put in a situation like, we got to get out of here. What do most people say? You go to a bar, you go to a restaurant, things start getting hairy. The first thing we all do is, I would say most cops, like, we got to get out of here, right? Because you want to avoid the situation. It's good to avoid a situation, but we perceive these things far before they even happen because we're thinking about the liability of the job. So I definitely think things have to change. We can't say cops are 24/7. Not in the NYPD, no, because the only time people get involved is something really, really tough. Pretty funny. Patrick Donahue puts, I was with 5 girls at the bar. He's imitating you. Can hear the Benzie box being pulled from the IROC dashboard and stored under the driver's seat. Jakar West. Does anybody still wear Jakar? Jakar West from the roll down driver windows. Makari gets out.
Great smell, bro. It's a great smell.
I think my uncle, I remember years ago, would have Jakar. I think they sell it at CVS.
Yeah. South
But
artist.
shout out. I love the comments. Great.
But yeah, so listen, all in all, holiday parties, you're with friends, you're with family. Don't get behind the wheel. Doesn't matter if you're a cop, you're not a cop, make a plan. I mean, Uber's like, if you like to go out and drink, I wish I had Uber when I was a kid. Instead of taking ferries and buses and all this other stuff, take an Uber, you cheap bastard. How much money are you guys making in overtime? Like, what the? I would Uber everywhere. I Uber places now, and it's like not even convenient. It's crazy expensive here. I started a transportation company, charged more than Uber, and it still did better than Uber. And it was like, and it's like, Uber is the greatest invention ever. You're in the city, like what's wrong with you? Don't get behind the wheel of the car. Spend a little bit extra money. Whatever it's costing you to go out that night, dinner, drinks, whatever it is, add $100 onto it, or $200, whatever it is. That's what it costs. That's the cost of doing business. That's the cost of having fun. Don't get behind the wheel. It's stupid. Take the feather out of the hat.
I agree. John, I used to say, if you don't want to spend money, guys like, they watch their pockets. If you don't want to spend money, then don't go out. Don't leave your house. Go out, have a good time, but prepare to spend money and throw the Uber in, like you said, prepare for that. Patrick Donahue did a great assessment. I'd rather pay $6,500 than $23,000 in embarrassment being in the paper. And the DWI just lasts for years. It's a stain on your record. It causes problems with your insurance. It's problems with everything. It's always over your head. Pay the Uber. You're right. It's the easiest thing today. Boom, you press on your. I don't care how intoxicated you are. You can still find that Uber on your phone, or someone else can call for you. And you know what? Even if you drove there, leave your car there. Leave your car there. If you have to pick it up the next day or another day, take another Uber back. So what? It's a lot less problems than if you found DWI.
And to the COs, be a shake box. Let them call you a shake box. Next Christmas, go out there and tell them, I don't want to see any of you behind the wheel. I'll lock you out myself. Believe me, you'll save people's lives. You'll save people's careers. If you could make a plan for them, if it's not convenient, then don't. But, if you could get them transported back to the command and have them sleep it off, do it. It's time to put the big boy pants on, I think, for everybody. So, all right, let's switch topics. I think this was a big thing. Wrote an article on this over the weekend. Did Luigi Mangione, did the NYPD have Luigi Mangione's name days prior to the arrest? I thought that the investigative detectives did, and I said that on here, and I was wrong. And then it comes out, we get some confidential information as well. I don't want to say confidential information. We get some anonymous sources that say San Francisco PD had a missing on Luigi Mangione. San Francisco PD officer did the due diligence, notified the FBI, supposedly notified the NYPD as well. And obviously Jessica Tisch and Chief of Detectives Kenny didn't know about it. And so before we knew that they contacted the mother days prior, it was sitting in my head and it was bothering me. I was like, wow, they actually did know the name. They did know the name, but Kenny says it numerous times and Tisch says it numerous times. We did not know Luigi Mangione's name. Me right off the bat, when I look at that, I'm like, glory hog. That's what I think. I think somebody got the information. That San Francisco cop must have called somebody he knew or somebody he worked with, or he just picked up the phone and called somebody, maybe got to the right people, and got in touch with someone in the NYPD, FBI, maybe a joint unit. I don't know, whatever. But he got in contact and they had that information. And I think glory hog, because I've encountered that numerous times. Knew this kid's 5'11", driving around with a gun. Knew this kid's got a warrant, driving around with a gun. And people don't give that information out to anybody, not to the other crime teams, not to gang. Gang was notorious for that. Narco was notorious for that. So were the crime teams, and then you don't give the info to patrol. Dangerous. There's no reason, and I understand that there are leaks. I understand it, and I also understand that we're not going to give everything out publicly, but there should be a process in place to alleviate this from happening, especially on high profile events like that? What'd you think when this all came to light? Like, what were you thinking?
So I said the same thing you said. I said there's only two possibilities, right? So one possibility is exactly that, right? Someone kept it close to their chest because they didn't want to give the information because they wanted the glory for themselves. And that happens quite too often. Doing anti-crime. How many times, I coordinate with the squads, and they were great. I had a great relationship with the squads, but a lot of times they had some information that we didn't have that could have been vital to us getting a legal firearm out there, and they kept it close to the chest. And I understand. Sometimes they would do it because of glory, or sometimes there was some good information, but they wouldn't release it because they didn't trust that maybe some of the guys would give out, would be too aggressive and destroy a case. Like, for instance, a lot of guys sometimes when they get the information on a perpetrator, right away they go to the door. And a lot of times you don't want to go to the door because there's a lot of advantageous information in that apartment. We want to eventually conduct a search warrant. So there are guys that, unfortunately, and their hearts are in the right place, but they would go attack it before they should. But there is that sense of glory. And on the same token, there were plenty of my anti-crime guys, and they were awesome, that sometimes had information that they didn't want to give out to other members of the team. They wanted to hold it for themselves, and it I think it's very self-serving. Whatever information I had, I would give it out. I didn't care because it's about the public, right? But it's very self-serving because you want to make that collar, or you want some glory, and again, everyone knows that when you hold information like that close to chest, nobody's out there rooting for you. Like, that guy's all about himself, right? When they call you on the job, one way. So I definitely think that is a huge possibility. And the other possibility is that Jessica Tisch, along with Chief Kenny, knew the information and they just lacked transparency and weren't giving that information out and were being untruthful. It's not far from the truth when it comes to this administration. So it's only one or the other. It can only be because they didn't give the information out because of glory, they held it close to chest, or they had it and they weren't being transparent.
Well, I definitely agree that, the NYPD is anything but transparent. I still, not to get off topic at all, but I still am flabbergasted at the fact that there were almost 100 911 calls on Staten Island for drones, and then Daily News calls DCPI, and they're like, no, we didn't have any reports of drones last night. Well, it's all over the media. It's all over the news. I was flabbergasted. So I agree that the NYPD is the furthest from transparent, but I really don't think they knew. And again, I don't think that I don't think it's a big deal to say that you knew the name, right? Because you're not going to give that out publicly. You're in the middle of apprehension efforts, investigative efforts. The public doesn't need to know that, but law enforcement needs to know that. I think somebody really kept it close to the hip, and I think I put a little video together last night that it really just it just shows exactly what happened, in my opinion. It's irrefutable what happened. I think that, somebody had that information, wanted to go make this apprehension, didn't want to tell anyone, wanted to be the heroes. And and the biggest thing to me is I don't care that a person did that. I care that that was able to happen. Right? Because this is going to happen. We got to eliminate human nature out of a lot of things. And there are people that are like that. I want to be the glory hound. I want to get this. So, I'll write a book about this, blah, 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 blah. They'll make a movie about me, whatever the hell it is, How do we alleviate that from happening in the future? But so this is a video I made yesterday. This is, I think it tells clear as day what happened. So.
You knew him by name before today. Was his name on your radar?
Excuse me?
Was his name on your radar? Was he someone who you had been looking into before his arrest?
No, we did not have his name prior to today.
But had this name come up in your investigation at all? Because his picture was out there, this video surveillance was out there, and this is somebody who had a family, friends. Frankly, some of the social media suggests friends that had been looking for him. Is this a name you saw anywhere prior to this arrest yesterday?
It is not. And we have been working this hard for 5 days and gotten hundreds of tips to our tip lines, but this was not a name that was called into us.
ABC News has learned that police were talking to the mother of Luigi Mangione before his arrest. Law enforcement sources say the FBI and NYPD visited her one day before Mangione was spotted at that McDonald's in Pennsylvania. Sources say they wanted to talk with her based on a tip from police in San Francisco, where she had filed a missing persons report last month. During their talk, Mangione's mother said the killer caught on surveillance cameras could be her son.
I mean, clear as day, bro. Clear as day what happened.
Well, the bottom line, excuse me, the bottom line is this. I do believe that they didn't know. Watching the video, the things that we spoke about, watching these press conferences, I do believe that this police department is untruthful and gaslights the public. But when it comes to this particular arrest, I don't believe they knew, which I think is an even bigger problem. In a situation like this, I was actually hoping that they were lying, because the fact that they didn't know the information and it was out there is scary. It's actually scary that someone would hold this, or some entity would hold this close to their chest and not provide the information to lead to the apprehension, of an actual perpetrator. Crazy 10-7s, you don't say, Eric. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's the bottom line is they are untruthful, but the fact that this information was not released for the police department to act sooner is scary. I mean, it's just, listen, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist and go too much into this, but this is a crazy case. All this information, and then he gets caught in McDonald's. It's just the fact that this information was not released is very strange. It's very strange. How could someone hold this close to their chest when we have such a media frenzy surrounding this particular murder, and this information is not immediately released? There should have been 5,000 phone calls to make sure that every entity in the NYPD had this name. So this is a huge failure. If it comes down to glory, I mean, it's really self-serving, and it's scary what we've gotten to when it comes to people.
Yeah, so, Patrick Donahue says, it's not like the media doesn't get their facts wrong from time to time. True. But we also have law enforcement sources that said this name was called into the NYPD and the FBI. And obviously, you heard there, the mother was interviewed by both the FBI and the NYPD, but the chief of detectives and the NYPD police commissioner didn't know. I'm going to be hard-pressed to believe that San Francisco PD did their due diligence, notified the FBI, but didn't notify the NYPD. Should everyone in the NYPD have that information? Maybe, maybe not. But at least you would think the chief of detectives, the police commissioner, and the investigating detectives would have that information. And they didn't. They clearly didn't. And again, does it mean that, we should kill the people that had the info, and maybe they're in a joint unit where they work with the FBI and the information didn't make its way up? Again, they are dealing with hundreds of tips. My point in pointing all this out is that there is no process in place nationally to deal with something like this. This is a high-profile event. You're getting hundreds of tips. And I understand that could be overwhelming. You're not going to be able to properly investigate. If, say, they got 1,000, God only knows how many phone calls have been made about this to police departments across the country. I think I see the guy. God only knows. It's probably way more than whatever Jessica Tisch said. She said 500. It's probably 10,000, right? How are you investigating that in a 4-day period? You're not. You're gonna try to grab, all right, what has legs? What actually could I investigate? So there's a lot of sifting through this information that's going to need to be done. But the information share between credible law enforcement sources, that's a problem. That to me is a very big problem. Now, I'm not saying that everybody in the NYPD needed to know about that. And I'm not saying that every single law enforcement agency should know about it. But that information, no way that information should not have made it to at least the chief of detectives, if not the chief of detectives and the police commissioner. I thought that we alleviated this in 9/11, and they probably did for a time. But things need to be constantly trained, right? Things need to be constantly reminded and trained and improved. And I think what you saw here is a clear breakdown in communication nationally amongst law enforcement. For, again, this is confidential information. San Francisco PD didn't run to the media like, this is the guy. No, they made the right notifications, but it didn't make its way through. Thankfully, this kid wasn't on a killing rampage, because that would have been a big problem. Thankfully, he wasn't. But there was a breakdown in communication totally. And this is something that they should look at. I'm not saying federalize the police department. I'm not. But I'm saying Trump's coming into office. You want information share between local police departments? There's a system that should be built to alleviate and take the human element out of this. So not only that this doesn't happen, but mistakes can't be made also. You know, and I'm not saying crush whoever had the information. It was a non-incident, in my opinion. It showed a breakdown in communication. There's a lot of good that could come out of this, I think, more than it needs to go. Let's go figure out how they had it, and let's hammer these guys, which they're probably doing, because that's what the job does, instead of looking to improve and how do we prevent this in the future. It's like, no, we just killed that guy. It's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So, you know, I think, you know, I just think it highlights a big problem in law enforcement is glory hogs.
Shout out to Amazing Ant. I think this is a great comment. I give credit to NYPD detectives, finest in the world. They know what to hold close to the chest, or she puts to the vest. Management doesn't. You're absolutely right. Detectives know what to keep close to the chest. But I would say in a case like this, I get it. Day 1, day 2, we're keeping information close to the chest while there's an active manhunt for the actual potential perpetrator, gathering evidence. If they had potential clues of an actual name, I can understand holding close to the chest. But when we're talking about day 5, if 5,000 people knew at that point, honestly, who cares? It's an all-out manhunt at that point. The information is going to get out there by that point. Day 5 in the policing world, when there's a media frenzy, a homicide as pinnacle as this one is, and how so prolific it's out there in the media, I think at day 5 everyone has to know. But at the same token, this is why it's so important to do a post-analysis of an actual homicide or an event that has such media attention, to learn what investigative tools were utilized and what value and what data have we garnered in intelligence that we've learned, and what we could use going forward, what mistakes were made. I agree with you. No one should be disciplined out of this. We should look at it, evaluate it, and how can we move forward to learn from it. There should be an information source for the entire country where all police departments can tap into and get information and actually input information, vice versa. But at the same token, I think that when it comes to a case like this, the entire country, I mean, honestly, when it comes to a case like this, the entire country was aware of this. Everyone knew about this. Everyone, you know, I'm out in California right now, and you know, I do jiu-jitsu all over the place. All the guys I was talking to, they all knew about this case. Everyone knew about this case. I can tell you right now, everyone knows about the Daniel Penny case. So certain cases doesn't really matter. Everyone knew about it anyway. So the fact that this information didn't make it to Jessica Tisch is either an epic fail or that they were lying to the public. It has to be one. Everyone knew about this case. Everyone was talking about it. I'm sure even internationally, it was such a media frenzy. The CEO of United Healthcare in Manhattan, the epicenter of the world, was shot dead in daylight by this intelligent valedictorian. Everyone knew about this case. So I think it's an epic fail that the information wasn't provided to them. So should anybody be disciplined? No, but we should figure that going forward. If you have that information, it has to go through channels, and you have to make sure that the upper echelon is aware of it to actually utilize that properly. So it could be one or the other. I mean, that's why it could be that they just didn't give the information. I find it hard to believe that something so vital wouldn't get to the upper echelon. It's scary if they really didn't.
So, you know, this is what I suggest. I suggest the same way that they have a tip hotline for anonymous sources is when there's a high-profile incident and there's a national, maybe international manhunt underway, there is an interagency thing that is set up with only high-level executives. I don't agree at all with Amazing Ant. I think detectives are great. I think that they know their job a lot better than management knows their job. I'll agree with you 100% on that. Unless unless management did their job, you're not going to know. I was never a detective. I'm not going to know the work of a detective, the intricacies of their job, their actual job. But when you're looking at high level stuff, I don't want a detective making those decisions because they don't think high level. And I'm sorry, it's just I've seen it time and time again. And I worked with a lot of moron detectives. I worked with a lot of guys that have done dumb, stupid, selfish things, hid information. I think there needs to be a procedure put in place across all law enforcement agencies. When there's a national manhunt underway, you activate this one hotline that it's an agency it's an interagency information share. High profile, it goes to the investigative agency. So NYPD calls it up. Anybody that has information related to it, they put it, it goes right to the police commissioner, from police commissioner to police chief. And this way, that information is being shared from the top down. That information is being shared top down. And if you get any tips related to this, you will kick it up. You will kick that information up. That is the procedure. You will not hold on to it. You won't call your buddy in the NYPD. You won't call your buddy in the Altoona Police Department. You will get it to where it needs to get done to. And that could alleviate all of this. There's currently nothing in place like that. And that shows it. And in the information age, I feel like that shows a big breakdown. Someone said that Kaz was impressed about the work, the coordination. Of course he is, because he's a moron. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But I think that, I think overall this was a major, major fail in communication. Major. And, thankfully nothing came of it, right? It was a non-incident in my opinion, because luckily he was caught by a McDonald's employee. He was, and then Altoona PD was smart enough to investigate it properly and apprehended him. So it was a non-incident in my opinion, but it was exposed a major, major flaw. And I think nationally, people should be looking at how to correct that instead of what the NYPD is going to look to do, which is to sweep this under the rug, curse us out, smear our names, because they're saying, why do they care? Why are they doing this? Why are they talking about this? Because it expose yourself to a huge flaw. This is a moment that should be corrected. But you're not looking to correct it. You're just looking to sweep it under the rug, pretend like it's not going to happen. And next time it could possibly be worse.
Hey, you're right. I agree with you, John. We have to, again, an eventful incident as such, when we lost the life of a CEO. It's so prolific. It's in the media. The entire nation is aware of it. It's in the news. It's the epicenter of the country. There has to be some information. Again, there has to be some information source where every agency, local agency, I don't know how many agencies there are throughout this entire country. I mean, there's so many small departments, and do they have the capability to communicate with one another? But to communicate throughout the entire country, especially now, you're right, in the information age, there should be a source where every police department could tap into it, especially such, where this information has to be cross-referenced. Especially, this was a pinnacle case, and that's why I agree. This is a non-incident, but it's a valuable case that they could actually analyze, because Luigi Mangione happens to be actually the perfect case to analyze for this, because his knowledge of the country is vast, and he has ties to all over the country. So it's very important in a particular case like this. Not when, most perpetrators are very isolated to where they live. They don't really go too far to the left, too far to the right. But Luigi Mangione is raised in Maryland, has ties to San Francisco, spent time in Honolulu. So he has a quite vast experience of being around the entire country. So this is the case where information sharing would be even more important with a perpetrator like Luigi Mangione, who's traveled a vast amount of, when it comes to this country. Patrick Jordan, I think you got a great comment here. So let me read it real quick. I want to go back to it if I can find it. By the way, good morning. Good morning, Chief. Anybody check out Patrick Jordan, good friend to the podcast here. He's got his own YouTube channel, Briefing with the Chief. But he says here, putting out an identified person of interest still being vetted can be problematic, but keeping the bosses in the loop is politically important. It can backfire. Yes, you bring up a valid point, by the way, Chief. I think a very valid point that sometimes information has to be close to the chest with rank and file. But I think in a case like this, it was day 5. So day 5 is a long time when it comes to a case like this. So there's definitely different ways to look at it. So, but the fact that they didn't have the information, at day 5 into day 6, it's a long time. It's almost a week.
Yeah, and again, I'm not really asking the question, was the NYPD notified? I'm telling all of you. So all of you that are saying that only the FBI was notified, that is completely inaccurate, and I have a lot of information debunking that. I know exactly who was notified and when they were notified and how they were notified. So I'm not really asking the question. So I don't understand why we're defending this job. We're saying, oh yeah, you know what? They're probably going to change something. No, they're probably not going to. The only reason they make changes, and I've said it before, is when they're sued legally or when they get bad press. It's the only reason. Other than that, they'll sweep this under the rug like it never happened. Same incident can happen again. And maybe this kid goes out and he goes on a complete spree and someone had his name for months and we didn't know about it. But I'm like, again, I think the goal here is we're not sitting here saying, oh, crush these people. And that's why we're not revealing everything that we know. We're just telling you there was a breakdown in communication. And yes, San Francisco PD notified the NYPD and notified the FBI. And they both kept that close to the hip, and that should never happen. NYPD was the investigating agency. They should have been the ones notified. It should have went high level. That information should have went high level, not kept at the hip by either the FBI or the NYPD. It was a breakdown in communication, and it needs to be corrected. I'm not going to make an excuse for the NYPD. I'm not going to pretend like the SFPD didn't do their job, because they did. They absolutely did. But there was nothing in place to prevent this from happening. There was no formal procedure in place for how this would operate and how it would make its way to the chief of detectives and the police commissioner. There was no formal way for how to disseminate that information. In my opinion, it should have went up from SFPD, and from the top, it should have got notified to the top of the NYPD. And that's how it should have went. But I'm not knocking SFPD for how it happened. They did the right thing. They did their due diligence. The NYPD did not. The FBI did not. And they honestly, that whoever got that information, it could have been a catastrophic failure, and they failed their leadership up top. They did. They didn't do their job. So what we're saying is, let's correct it. I'm not helping anyone sweep anything under the rug, especially this agency. I mean, they are a systemically corrupt department at this point. I understand why you got to. How does it feel that the FBI can't share most of their confidential information with most of the high level people in the NYPD or the mayor in New York City? How's that? They're not credible. They're not trustworthy. Half the people can't even testify. They're not even deemed credible people, and they're running the New York City Police Department. So I'll be damned if I'm going to sit here and pretend like, oh yeah, no, they didn't have it. It was the FBI that screwed them. No. They clearly had the information. And I know they had the information. And I'm just going to leave it at that.
Listen, that's the whole point of this, right? The questions that we're asking, how does an incident like this, if it happens again, and unfortunately, an incident like this will happen again, it might not be the same actual incident, but something that's so highly prolific that it will be nationwide news and everyone will be tapped in. There has to be a
the stalling's going, bro, fellas. And ladies. Does he come back? No, I think we lost him. Yeah, we lost him. All right, we'll wait for him to come back. He's frozen up. But yeah, so I mean, again, the evidence irrefutable at this point that they weren't notified. So they absolutely were notified. Let's correct it. Let's create a system. Let's make this better. Let's ensure that this never happens again. Eric, you were frozen for like 2 minutes, bro.
What was it? The stalling? Which was it? StreamYard today?
It's 100% your stalling.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, here we go. Yeah, but the bottom line is there has to be something that police departments can tap into nationwide. This is nationwide news. There'll be other incidents that are nationwide news, and we have to learn from it. There should be conferences among local law enforcement agencies. Say, hey, what mistakes have you made? Here's the mistakes we made, and how can we better exchange information? Obviously, it's something we don't want too much information going in there because this information has to be vetted. But with a particular case like this, that's such a media frenzy, there has to be some source.
Oh no, Eric, his thing's definitely not working too good today. Definitely not. All right, let's. Oh, your thing's freezing up bad, dude.
It might be some weather conditions. I got to check.
Yeah, you just froze again. But
Patrick Donahue put Eric, you forgot to log out of I Love New York Cops chat room again.
Yeah. So all right. So let's move on from that. Did the NYPD have Luigi Mangione name? Yes. 100%. Yes. Did the FBI have it? Yes. Did anyone inform the police commissioner of the NYPD or the chief of detectives? No. Very obvious. It's irrefutable. So we answered that question. So let's switch a little bit. Oh, Naked Coffee, $10 to the podcast. Thank you, my friend. Happy Variable Supplement Day, and to all it applies to. Congratulations, all. I myself am not I don't get the variable supplement. I'm in a very unique group, but that's okay. But yeah, to all you guys, glad. I actually ran into a bunch of retired NYPD guys celebrating yesterday at the Jets game. So I thought that was funny. Seen a lot of old faces there, so it was good. A lot of good names, a lot of good people. But yeah, let's switch. So weekend, I know that there were no calls as per the NYPD, but there were thousands of calls across New York City about drones. There were thousands of calls across Jersey, PA, and then they're popping up all over the country. What are you thinking about all this nonsense that's going on? Like, I mean, I'm just looking again, and I'm saying complete utter breakdown in law enforcement, complete utter breakdown in this country, nationally, state, and local. Complete utter breakdown. Embarrassment.
Well, again, we're talking about drones, right? You can't say what something is if you don't know what it's not. I mean, the government's telling the public right now not to be alarmed, not to worry. Everything's fine, but we don't know what it is. So if you don't know what it is, how can you tell us to be safe? So, which, again, I don't want to sound like a deep state conspiracy theorist, but I do have questions, and I am very speculative right now. I do believe that this could be some type of test from the government test, because other than that, it doesn't make sense. If this was a potential adversary, or this was actually coming from Iran or China, you would hope that the government would shoot these down already. So, I right now.
Yeah, your thing's bad, bro. You're all over the place. So this is the moron.
I'm having some weather conditions.
Yeah. So this is the moron New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy. And he's tweeting about how he's working with the New Jersey State Police to figure all this out and to come up with a plan for what they're going to do. Again, I don't care. I mean, I personally think the government knows exactly where these things are coming from, exactly who they're for, where they're from, or it could be them themselves looking for something. I'm not, I don't believe this is alien light form. I mean, I don't think aliens are going to put green and red flashing lights on so that the planes could see us. I don't think they care about our technology or our FAA regulations. So call me crazy for that. I don't think it's alien technology whatsoever. I think our government knows exactly what this is. It's either a foreign threat or it's the government themselves. But and that's a problem to me because, one, they can't even make up a lie good enough. If it is our government, they can't make up a lie good enough to explain why they're flying all over the country and putting fear into people. That's a big problem. People are saying possibly looking to thwart a terrorist attack, find some weapons that made their way into the country. I'm going to say that they're completely inept and they're completely incompetent because the reason that we know that, if they're trying to keep it confidential and we know that, then they're incompetent in that, right? If they're trying to keep it confidential, you're doing a horrible job. you're doing a horrible job. If it's a foreign entity and we're not taking it down, you're doing a horrible job. Every leader in the FBI and the CIA all should be immediately removed. All of the leadership teams should be removed. We should start over in this country. And then again, when you look locally, I don't care if it's foreign. I don't care if it's the government. You don't know what it is. The government's not telling you anything. You're in charge of public safety. 911 call happens. Do you call the FBI to figure out what you're doing? Do you call the CIA to figure out what you're doing? Do you call the NSA to figure out what you're doing? No, you do it. 911 call happens. There's hundreds of 911 calls. No, there's no finals given on any of these calls. Nobody knows what the finals were given at that night. NYPD is not admitting that they were even getting calls. Shows how inept, emasculated, and incompetent this police department is. In my opinion, the biggest failures in this, the biggest failures are all of the elected officials in every state and city locally and their police departments, state and local. They're the biggest failures. Bigger than the FBI, you are the people that are supposed to provide public safety. You are the people. We've seen you take drones down time and time and time again. And now these things are flying. I don't care if it's the federal government. I don't care if it's a foreign entity. You should have been able the ones to investigate where they're coming from, how they're coming, and actually get your hands on one to figure out what it is.
I agree with Logic's finest. The drones are a PSYOP plan. People, excuse me. The drones are a PSYOPs plan, testing the public's reactions. You know what? Like I said, I don't want to sound like a crazy conspiracy theorist, but I do believe that that is potentially what's going on. I'm speculative. I haven't made a complete decision, but it's the only thing that makes sense because these are a danger right now. And if the government is doing this, to see what the local law enforcement municipalities, what their reaction would be, or just see what the public's reaction would be, we're seeing it right now. And the reaction is zero. No one's doing anything about it. So, I mean, again, you can't say what something is if you don't know what it's not. You can't say what it's not if you don't know what it is. They're saying that it's safe, but yet we don't know where it's coming from, and they're not being shot down. At least take them down to find out, go through these drones and to find any, figuratively speaking, any fingerprints or footprints on it, where it may come from, any identifying marks, any valuable investigative tools, intelligence from it. But we're not doing that. We're just saying, everything's fine. How could everything be fine if we're not doing anything? So is this a complete PSYOP? There's a lot of YouTube videos coming out saying it's a PSYOP. It could be, but, we have to look at all angles right now. This is all based on theory. It's kind of like the same thing with the Luigi Mangione case in the shooting and the death of the CEO, Brian Thompson. It was all angles and different speculation. We have the same thing right now. And if that's what's going on right now, listen, the CIA is known to do tests throughout our existence to see how the public reacts to things. This could be no different.
Yeah. All right. I don't know who the hell that is, but whatever. You're out of here. Okay. Anyway, so here's another loser, Mayorkas. Now, I'm not with any of yous with the PSYOP. I'm not with any because I don't care about the PSYOP. You shouldn't be able to PSYOP me. You shouldn't be able to do that. Everybody's like PSYOP, PSYOP, PSYOP. No. You know what it is? Apathy, 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 apathy. That's what it is. Apathy, 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 apathy. I don't care about PSYOPs. PSYOPs should never be allowed to happen in this country. We the people, right? I'm not even getting into it. I'm not even getting into it because I'm going to get a knock on my door if I get into it. But it's the bottom line is this. This shouldn't be allowed to happen. We need to go common sense and what we know works. That's it. If you want to install a world where there's all drones and you're just testing to see how the public's going to react, to see how drones flying over themselves constantly, no. Sorry. I want to know exactly why that's up right now. Sorry. I want to know exactly why my police department isn't doing anything about it. I want to know exactly why all my fat, soft-bodied elected representatives aren't doing anything about it. I want to know why all of them with a big mouth can't come up with a plan immediately. My 5-year-old could come up with a plan right now. I could go to any pre-K in this country and ask them what we should do to figure out where these drones are coming from, and they're going to come up with a plan. Why can't these morons come up with a plan? Why are we accepting it? Why are we not talking? Why is it just me and Eric asking these questions? Why? I'm going to sit here and what? Say, oh, the great work of the men and the women in the NYPD? No, I'm going to say right now, defund them. I said it last week. Get rid of it. I thought the drone program was a great program. Now, I think that they waste a lot of money and they use them for stupid things. But obviously, it's useless and inept. Get rid of it. Obviously, Kaz Daughtry, the drone commissioner, who's done nothing but talk about drones for 2 years, hasn't said boo about these drones. Get rid of him. He's useless. Bye. You just proved you're inept. What are our local elected officials saying about nothing? All right, get them out. You're done. To me, this should never be allowed to happen in this country. And the only reason it's allowed to happen in this country is because everybody's too busy with all this Q nonsense and all this, oh, it's a psyop. Okay, so what are you doing about it? Did you contact your local elected official? Did you contact your police department? Did you put pressure on them on social media to do it? They're only starting to talk now because of all the pressure on social media. That's it. No, but we're going to sit here and say, oh, the police department's doing a great job. No, the police department looks like a bunch of losers. The state police look like a bunch of losers. Like they're not doing a great job. They're doing a horrible job. Horrible. That's not just the NYPD. That's Jersey. That's Jersey PD. That's Jersey elected officials too. Horrible, terrible job. Every single person should lose their job. Anyone that hasn't said a word about this should be voted out. Every police department official that's in charge of investigating this should be removed immediately. Sorry, we no longer need you because you proved you're useless. You proved it to us. You're useless. We've been sitting for a month. We have things flying over our head. You can't tell us what they are. You haven't made contact with one. You don't know where they're coming from. You're useless. Get out of here.
That's the point. That's why we're actually saying the same thing. You're saying it might not be a psyop. And what I'm saying that there's speculation that it could be a psyop. I'm not saying it's definitely a psyop, but it could be. There's different theories right now and different angles. The reason why I say that, I think it's Kingdom of the Magic High. Is that the name? Talks about Project Bluebeam, which is something which definitely it could be. But the point is, if the government is doing some type of test when it comes to the CIA, if it is the CIA, to see the reaction, the public's reaction, along the public, I'm talking about the local law enforcement agencies. I don't think local law enforcement agencies and some of these local politicians are in on this test if it is a test. I think it's also to see their reaction. And what you're saying is exactly right. Their reaction is zero. They're not actually taking reaction. So if this was a test, if this comes out, determines, you know what, it is a test, then it's an epic fail. They could actually say, let's see how our local law enforcement agencies respond. How does our local officials respond? And they respond with nothing. Zero, saying everything's fine. They're not doing it. Absolutely right, John. If there is some kind of psyop, the police departments, not just the NYPD, in sightings of these drones, should take them down and do their investigations. Again, get the data, get the fingerprints on it, get the phone, find out where it's from, get the investigative intelligence of nature that we need to move further to figure out where they're coming from, to determine if it's a psyop, to determine if it's an entity trying to cause harm. Find out what it is. Do our local law enforcement agencies actually have the capability to protect the public? That's what this comes down to.
Yeah, that's clear as day. They don't. It's clear as day. They don't have the. I don't think that they don't have the capabilities. They either don't have the balls or they don't have the intelligence to do it. So whatever it is, they're inept. Let's go. Logic's Finest said all these public reactions are the intended goal. I agree with you. I see people freaking out. Right? It's like the thing with the drone. It reminds me of the 2 weeks to stop the curve, or it's the same type of thing. You know, and the same thing with Luigi Mangione too. All this obsession over him. You know, I think it's also a psyop. I think there's intended goals in the media lauding this kid as trying to sexualize him, making him out to be a hero, and all of these things. I think they do prey on weakness, but we allow them as a public to prey on our weakness because we don't hold people accountable for their actions. Jimmy Kimmel should not have a TV show anymore. Jimmy Kimmel, who's lauding this kid and sexualizing him, talking about how hot he was and going through, shouldn't have a TV show anymore. And the girl that was on the news, that whatever the hell, that Taylor Lorenz that we played on here, she shouldn't be on TV anymore. People should be outraged. Instead, I'm getting text messages. What do you think they are, bro? What do you think they are? And I agree with you, Logic's Finest. People are freaking out, and there is a test. But what I'm saying is, so what I'm saying is, I'm not saying that they're not nefarious things in the background and they're not psyops. What I'm saying is they should never be allowed to work, because us as the people should be well informed and pushing back that we're not just going to accept this. And ultimately, it's apathy that allows all this bullshit. You know, I've grown men scared about these things flying over their head, but they could care less on why the police department's not doing anything about it. They would never contact their city councilman. They would shake in their boots, even though they're 6'2", all muscle, and they could crush their city council person like nothing. No, I'm not going to ask a question. Oh, because I might stand out in the crowd. Oh, no, I can't do that. It's like, that's all I'm saying. It's like, you know, I don't understand how we allow this. I just don't get it. It's you know, it's unbelievable. Marlon says the Patriot Act is why the government's allowed to lie to us and do all that. I believe that's what you're talking about. And he says the fear gets you to surrender your freedom with more draconian laws, and Patriot Act was like 9/11. It's true, Marlon. You're 100% right? And I said it before. When I was a kid, I was like, I don't care if the government listens to me. I don't care. I don't do anything wrong. I'm not a terrorist. Now I'm like, wow, that was the stupidest thing. I'm basically just went against the founding of the country for thinking of it. It's like, no, now I'm like, yeah, I do care. Why the hell are you listening to me? And then every now and then, every place I go, I have to get into the other line. Like if I go to a stadium, get into the other line, they search me. You go to the airport, they're going through my luggage. I mean, and I'm sitting, and I would always ask them, how many Italian guys from Staten Island are you worried about blowing up planes? How many Italian guys from Staten Island have committed acts of terrorism in this country? How many 80-year-olds that lifelong citizens of America have committed acts of terrorism in this country? Why are you making an 80-year-old take their shoes off? You know, all of these nonsensical things. And I'm not, and Marlon, by the way, I'm not saying let's make more laws, because that's the last thing. We have plenty of laws. I'm saying utilize what we have our police department do what they need to do. Take my private drone down if I'm flying it with my kids in the park. Now you're telling me you can't take these drones down? I'm not buying it. Oh, they alleviated, the FAA alleviated drone thing. I don't care. I don't care.
Listen, you know what? The more we talk about it, the more I've been analyzing the situation with the drones. I do believe it's a psyop. I don't believe it's Project Bluebeam. I think that's a good thing to look at. Project Bluebeam, you know, it's a conspiracy theory, but it's this theory of New World Order to change people's religion. It's also a theory like for people to believe in some type of alien invasion. Do I believe there's outside life? Yes. I do believe there's outside life. There's no doubt about it. But do I believe this is some type of alien invasion? No. I believe it's a psyop to see what the public's reaction is. Just like Logic's Finance was saying earlier. That's what I believe. And Marlon is absolutely right. You know, creating more draconian laws. And we are reacting. No matter what, the bottom line is we're reacting. John, you're reacting. I'm reacting. We're talking about it right now. We're reacting saying, hey, even if this is some type of psyop, how are the local law enforcement agencies not coordinating with their local law officials? How are the people in these communities not saying, hey, to their local police department, their local officials, do something right now? And again, it goes back to what we say, John, only 2% of a population actually stick out from the pack and speak their minds. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. So if they're trying to get and analyze the reaction of the public, and the reaction of the public is fear. That's what it comes down to, fear. And there's a response, right? When you're in a potential combative situation. Flight, fight, or freeze. And what do we see most right now? What's happening? Freeze. The police departments are frozen. The communities are frozen. The local law enforcement officials, they're frozen. They're not reacting. And so the government, if this is some type of CIA test, can capitalize on that. We can create more laws because people are frozen. They're afraid. They don't want to take action, and they don't want to speak out from the crowd. There are people that are afraid to say, hey, this is a psyop. There's people that are afraid to say, I don't care if this is a psyop or not. I want them shot down. I don't want these things over my house. And that's what we need to do. We need to band together and say, we don't want these things And exactly that. Tell our local law enforcement agencies, what are you doing about it? You just going to sit idle? So, I agree with Marlon. Could be about draconian laws. I do agree this is some type of psyop. I think a lot of us are leaning towards that. And that's the bottom line. So, John, I think we're all saying the same thing. It comes down to apathy because of the fear, because people allow themselves to be frozen with fear. And it works synonymous. Their fear allows them to be frozen. So, again, we have to react. And, again, I really appreciate our friends that listen to the podcast. Logic's finest. Some of the stuff you're putting out here is really good. Marlon, you're absolutely on target. And, Mikey G says, I hope I am wrong, but they might be looking for radiation from a dirty bomb. We don't know. The bottom line is they're probing for something. And Steven S says, apathy is the real enemy. You're right. Apathy is the enemy on local levels at all different directions. Look, the fact is we have a mayor in New York City who has a complete corrupt administration, has led the spoils and an epic fail in New York City down to peril. And yet he was voted in because of voter apathy. And potentially, if he survives, he could be voted in again because of voter apathy. Voter apathy is absolutely dangerous. So the word apathy shouldn't be taken lightly. And we need people to actually be strong. Paul's New York City beat 5896. I don't know if that was your shield number. Could be. $4.99 to the podcast. Coffee Donuts. We appreciate it. He says 800,000 drones registered with the FAA. Another 800,000 not registered. People need to educate themselves and calm down. Yeah, I get what you're saying. You have to educate yourselves. If you educate yourselves, you can calm down because competence breeds confidence. But right now, it is the unknown, and people are writing because they don't know. But we don't know what these are, so they should be taken down because they are a potential threat, and anything unknown is a threat.
Yeah, listen, I get it. There's 800,000 drones. So you're telling me every night 800,000 people flying their drones across New York City? And the police department's just not doing anything about it and doesn't know how to react to it? I'm not buying it. I don't buy it. I agree more with there's something up. I don't know what it is. But it's completely unacceptable and shouldn't happen. And anyone that's partaking in this test, search, or whatever the hell it is, has deemed themselves highly incompetent, grossly incompetent. Let's see. This is the director of Homeland Security, Mayorkas. Real loser. Another guy, highly incompetent individual. How this person collects a salary is beyond me. The borders have been open for 4 years. We've let a numerous amount of fentanyl come across our borders, criminals, drugs, traffickers, sex trafficking. This guy, how does this guy have a salary? How does this guy get treated with respect anywhere? Absolutely. He should get no respect anyway. He should go on the news and they should abuse him. So you've been the Homeland Security director and you haven't thought it would be a good idea to close the border? And he was the one telling us, oh, our borders were secure. Let's hear what he has to say about all this. Let's hear.
Absolutely, George, and thank you very much for having me. There's no question that people are seeing drones, and I want to assure the American public that we in the federal government have deployed additional resources, personnel, technology to assist the New Jersey State Police in addressing the drone sightings. Some of those drone sightings are, in fact, drones. Some are manned aircraft that are commonly mistaken for drones. And we do see duplicative reporting. But there's no question that drones are being sighted. Let me set the record straight here, George. There are thousands of drones flown every day in the United States. Recreational drones, commercial drones. That is the reality. And in September of 2023, the Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, changed the rules so that drones could fly at night. And that may be one of the reasons why now people are seeing more drones than they did before, especially from dawn to dusk. And so that is the reality. But I want to assure the American public that we are on it. We are working in close coordination with state and local authorities. And it is critical, as we all have said for a number of years, that we need from Congress additional authorities to address the drone situation. Our authorities currently are limited, and they are set to expire. We need them extended and expanded.
What exactly do you need?
We want state and local authorities to also have the ability to counter drone activity under federal supervision. That is one important element that we have requested, and we've heard it echoed by the state and local officials themselves.
And there it is right there. There it is right there. That's what they want. They want to create new laws. There it is. So again, you already said, he didn't say we want to create new law that local law enforcement could take down these drones. He said we want to create it under federal supervision because they have the authority to take these drones down, as we've seen for years and years and years. So again, it's I just want to bring up a point that Scooch brought up. What if a drone flew over Israel that they didn't know about? Oh, I'm sure our elected leaders would be all over that. They would be outraged from our elected officials. Imagine if a drone flew over Israel, how our elected leaders and officials would react to it. Oh my God, a drone over Israel. There's a drone over your house, and the people that you pay to keep you safe aren't doing a damn thing about it, and none of them are saying a word. Throw Israel. Call the front runner for governor in New York, Mike Wallace. See what he says. He'll grovel on his knees. There's a drone over Israel. We need to go to war immediately. They'll be calling for war. But there's a drone flying over your house. Thousands and thousands of drones flying over your house for night. Yeah, we don't know. We don't know. We're going to call for more authority. We're going to not only outlaw the New Testament, we're going to outlaw your ability to play with your kids in the park with a drone. Fucking joke.
Remember the movie My Cousin Vinny? By the way, awesome movie. He goes, everything that guy just said is bullshit. Well, that's exactly what you just heard. Everything that just came out of this guy's mouth is, some of these they're not drones, they're actually aircraft. Oh, and now that they can fly at night. Marlon, you nailed it. It's to create more draconian laws, and so did Scooch, my brother Scooch. He nailed it here also. So that's the answer. Create a panic to change the law. That's what the bottom line is. People are frozen with fear, and allows them to create more law. I don't believe anything that came out of his mouth. Complete gaslight. How can you say, we assure you everything's fine? Again, you're saying everything's fine, but you don't know what it is. You can't tell me what something is if you don't know what it's not. So, again, full of BS. Put this guy in the same box with these NYPD losers. Another bum. A total bum. How could you say everything's fine? And that's what it comes down to. It's a psyop to create more law. And that's right. He didn't say laws, and you heard that. You heard that clear, John. You nailed it right there. I agree with you. He didn't say laws when it comes to drones. He just said laws. I mean, what's next? They're gonna have, Kaz Daughtry and John Shell. They're not gonna like things that we say. They're gonna send a drone up to zap my Starlink. I mean, right now, by the way, sorry about the Starlink. Having some windy conditions. It's been crazy out in California. Windy. There's been fires, but. John, what if they want to send a drone up and zap my Starlink so I can't podcast anymore because they don't want to hear me talk? Who knows what they could do with this stuff? And that's the bottom line. You're right, Scooch. If they were flying drones over Israel, you know what? They'd be calling me back. I'd be back in the Marine Corps. We'd be gearing up right now.
Yeah. So Eminem says, John, you are going to get a phone call. It's all right. I defend my position. I speak. I use my own name. I defend my positions. Right? This is what it is. Scooch says, so what's the solution? The solution is if the people that are in place to do that, we don't need any more laws on the books. When people start calling for laws, and there already are, Marlon just sent me an article. I'll pull it up in a minute. But when people start calling for more laws, I'm going to push back and say we don't need any laws. You know what we need? We need competent people in office, and we need competent local elected law enforcement. Not elected or appointed law enforcement. That's when. So again, we're going to be going against the grain with all of it. While Benny Johnson's calling for more laws, and Mike Lawler's calling for more laws, and DC Drano's calling for more laws, and all these people, keep us safe because we're the Republicans. The Republicans keep us safe so much better than the Democrats by taking away your rights. I'm going to be saying, no, you're all completely incompetent, and we need to get people that have a brain. It's very simple. Use the technology we have in place. and take these things down and let the American people know what they are and stop unauthorized drones from flying at night. They didn't just loosen up. Oh, we just loosened it and people are flying at night. And yeah, and there's thousands of drones flying all night long that and we're not doing anything about it. I'm not buying it. There's total regulation around these drones. They're flying over sensitive locations and we're not doing nothing about it. And again, like I said, I know Mikey G said, oh, they could be possibly looking for a dirty bomb flying over. And then again, it shows how incompetent they are. This guy that was just on TV sat there for 4 years and told you that our border is secure and nobody's coming over the border. When thousands of people a day. And no one said it. No one blinked an eye. They're like, yeah, no. All right, nobody's coming over our border. And we knew that to be a lie. And that's the problem here. It's like we're all just listening to what we're told, and we're like, oh, okay. And then people are freaking out, scared. Yeah, take away my rights. They're gonna keep me safe. It's like, no. You're never keeping me safe because you just showed me how safe you're keeping us. You could care less. But like I said, if it was Israel, you'd be crawling over there. You'd be going up. You'd write a bill tomorrow and send billions of dollars over there. But for us, you're not keeping me safe. Mike Lawler's not keeping me safe. Joe Borelli's not keeping me safe. John Schell's not keeping me safe. Kaz Daughtry sure as hell ain't keeping me safe. Nobody's keeping us safe, people. So what we need to do is if you can't do your job, you should be out of office. If you can't do your job, you should be removed from your job. It's that simple. And obviously, they can't do their job.
Bones 1999 says they're probably not even real drones. Probably just holograms for a psyop with unknown reasons. Now, that's potentially the case. And that's why we're asking, what are the local law enforcement agencies doing? Are they trying to take these things down to determine, is there actually a drone there? Is there a hologram? What are the local law enforcement agencies actually doing? What actions are they taking to actually combat this? And the answer is they're doing nothing. You have this idiot telling you everything's fine. There's no problem. Border's secure. We assure you, the American public, you're fine. No reason to panic. That actually creates more panic because you got this guy completely gaslighting you, totally insulting the American people by basically saying American people are idiots. They'll believe anything I tell you because everything he's saying is a complete lie. You can't assure the American people and tell them everything's fine, and yet local law enforcement agencies actually haven't done anything. You're saying you coordinate with them, but what are they actually doing? What are they actually doing to figure out? Is there actual physical evidence of these drones? Have they tried to take them down to determine if they're holograms or not? Again, this is information that they should be trying to uncover through intelligence, garner information, and then put this information out to the public so that it's actually transparent. Leave people in the dark and create anxiety and create fear.
Yeah, I had up on the screen. What's it called? One of these drones that were flying around that ABC 7 captured. Paul Beat says they were flying over a sensitive location for years. I have no evidence of that. I've never seen it. I pay attention. I've never seen that one time in my life. Like I said, I've seen sensitive events. I've seen these drones get taken down time and time again at sensitive events, parades and all that. Now, all of a sudden, out of the blue. Here's a report that comes out rather interesting, and I'll follow this up with an article.
Drone sightings force a local airport to shut down, the mounting frustration over the mystery in the sky. Good evening. I'm Jessica Moore. The number of drone sightings across the tri-state area has been growing over the last 2 weeks, with more than 3,000 reports in New Jersey alone. And with no indication the sightings are coming to an end, local and state officials are becoming increasingly impatient for answers. As Alicia Reed explains, they also want authorities to destroy any drones that may be considered a threat.
It's smooth sailing at New York Stewart International Airport Saturday night, unlike the nearly hour-long delay the evening prior after a drone in the airspace stopped all flights.
It's always a nuisance.
Drones have been spotted throughout the tri-state since mid-November. The FBI says they've received about 5,000 leads since then. It's not good. Only about 100 have led to action by the FBI. In a statement, Governor Kathy Hochul says in part, this has gone too far. She's calling on Congress to pass a bill that will strengthen the FAA's oversight of drones and give select state and local law enforcement agencies the right to detect, track, or even destroy unmanned aircraft systems, or UAS. New Jersey Congressman Chris Smith plans to introduce legislation that would authorize training for state police across the country to track and take down drones.
State police, probably a designated unit could be established, have real experts.
Over 50 local, state, and federal partners have engaged in the investigation, including the FBI, DHS, and FAA. A rep from the Department of Homeland Security says they're confident many of the sightings are manned aircrafts that are being misidentified as drones. The FAA says it is legal to fly a drone during the day or at night, as long as it's below 400 feet and isn't causing a hazard. But restricting airspace is a problem, and that happened here. At Stewart International Airport, Alicia Reed, CBS News, New York.
Stay with CBS News.
So there you go. Right there. Airport shut down because of that. Was the drone taken down? Oh, no. Was the drone identified? Oh, no.
And that's what the bottom line is. What are these local law enforcement agencies doing about it? And they're really doing nothing. I mean, we see the response of New Jersey. We see the response of NYPD. And it really is nothing. That's the bottom line. And she said, it's very subjective, right? So we have to delve into this more. That it's legal during the day. It's legal at night unless it creates a hazard. And I think that, having a conglomerate of drones in a specific area where people have the unknown and don't know what they are, that creates a hazard. It's very subjective about what's a hazard. So again, let's get into this article. I think this is a good article right here.
Yeah, so new drone detection system coming to New York after incident forces Stewart Airport to shut down. So what does that mean? Oh, let's spend more money. Let's regulate you further. Let's make my friends rich for another system to put up that mirrors the system we already have that we're currently not using. It's complete insanity what people, and that's it always relates back to that, right? It's like, oh, what are you going to do? We're going to create money. We're going to spend your money and we're going to create new laws. It's like, nah, I don't think that's what we need to do. I think that we're spending enough money with you people already. I think you have enough state-of-the-art detection stuff already. So that's what they're looking to do. They're looking to this airport was disrupted, and now they're looking to put in a new drone detection system. God knows who's going to build it. God knows if they're even in the business of drone detection, who they're related to, and what kind of product you're going to get for the billions of dollars, and who's going to get the kickbacks. It's an absolute joke.
That's all that comes to my mind is what private contract is this and who benefits? Who's getting the kickback from whatever private contract is going to have these drone detection systems? I mean, we've seen when we talk about a local level with the NYPD, how well their private contracts have done with robots and gun detection scanners. Epic fail. But the bottom line is someone still made money off of it. Ron Layson, by the way, thank you so much. Great friend to the podcast. He said there's 190 on YouTube and only 68 likes. Hit the like button. So do me a favor. We're almost 2 hours into this. If you like it, what we're talking about here, if you don't like it, you had an opportunity to actually express yourself. If you're in opposition, you're polarizing, you're a troll to this podcast, hit the like button. We give a pretty much free space. We only remove people when they disrupt the actual comments and disrupt the chat itself. But other than that, like and subscribe. We appreciate if you're on X. If you watch us on X, share it out. Get the information out there. Build us together, our friends, and listen to the podcast. But John, absolutely. Who benefits from these private contracts when it comes to these detection scanners? We see it. Typically, it's an epic fail, but still, it's money spent, and it's not money spent well.
Yeah, I mean, so it's terrible. We're doing absolutely nothing about it. Absolutely incompetent. I'm going to say it again. Local law enforcement, the way they've handled this, I mean, I'm looking at them right now. You don't deserve any other laws. You don't deserve any other funding. You're completely incompetent. And that's just what it is. That's just what it is. They're just going to stay up. We have an inept, emasculated, incompetent leadership in local, state, federal law enforcement, which we've been saying on this show for 3 years. This proves it. That's it. And our elected officials are just as highly incompetent and losers as they are, and should be treated as such, and should not get reelected. And I'm not just pointing out the fact that these are Democrat-controlled states. I'm talking about all of them, because I haven't seen any strong messaging from any of them other than that former Air Force pilot assemblyman in New Jersey. I haven't seen anybody else that I'm like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Not Nicole Malliotakis, not anybody else. I heard her say a couple of things, but I haven't heard her really hone down on the issue. Yeah, she came out because it's in the media. She's got to get out. You keep your face out there, keep yourself relevant. There was no solution-based talk there. There was absolutely no solution-based talk there. The only one I heard it from was that assembly member in Jersey who literally said, this is, they're just not doing anything about it. And I don't understand that. Then he can do something about it. And he's full well known it. Another thing I want to talk about before we get into the last topic is the idolization of this kid Mangione. It's another thing. I believe if you look at this on its face, this is Marxism by way of media and Hollywood like we've never seen before. What they're trying to do is normalize class warfare in this country. They're trying to normalize class warfare. Luigi Mangione's a hero. Luigi Mangione's so sexy. And what's popping up all over New York City? There's clothing that's coming out with Luigi Mangione's face on it and his shirt off. There's wanted posters of other CEOs in this country. Now, I'll be the first to tell you there's a huge problem in the healthcare system. Huge problem with the price of things. But that's not what's happening here. No one is interested in correcting the healthcare system. We're just interested in demonizing the people in charge of the healthcare system. Why? Class warfare. It is the foundational belief in Marxism. It's foundational belief in Marxism. Listen to this. Listen to this. Absolutely disgusting. Margaret Cho. Here we go.
What are you holding space for right now?
The United Healthcare CEO shooter. I'm holding space for, as most people I know are, we're holding space for those eyebrows, that body, the abs.
What are you holding space for right now?
The United Healthcare.
I mean, could you believe that?
These are sick people. There was actually a movie called Class Warfare years ago. Absolutely. This is sick. This is just comes down to more political tension in this country. And that's what this comes down to is everything in this country. Our justice system has become political. There's political tension now in this Luigi Mangione case. This is crazy what people are talking about. I mean, you're actually seeing that politics is coming to it, right? You see a lot of people that are leftists are, they're rooting for Luigi Mangione. This is sick what's going on here. Absolutely crazy that we could actually, put him as some type of hero. Yes, is the system flawed when it comes to insurance? And a lot of the system is flawed because of the same politicians that have implemented policy that allows these insurance companies and big pharma to make money off the American people. Again, that's why I say it's the Munchausen syndrome. They administer the problems and then they want to treat the symptoms. And they believe that Luigi Mangione is treating the symptoms by going after actual particular CEOs. This is insane. This is ridiculous. Are there flaws with the insurance company? Are there flaws with Brian Thompson and other CEOs? I'm sure there are. But to actually meet his tragic demise in this manner is sick. And it's sick for anybody to actually capitalize it and actually glorify it. These people are sick and they're demented. I mean, honestly, the politics in some cases, it's become a disease.
Dude, look at this. They have a photo of this kid as a saint. As a saint. I mean, it's I'm telling you, it's legitimate. It's legitimate. I mean, I think Hollywood's probably always been a bunch of Marxists, but now they're really showing it. The media's always been a bunch of Marxists, but now they're really showing it. This is trying to institute and normalize class warfare in this country. It's not going to stop at the healthcare CEOs, obviously, just like it didn't stop in Stalin's Russia. It just worked its way all the way down to everybody was rich and everybody was what was it? What they call them? The kulaks, right? Everybody was a kulak. Right now, the healthcare CEOs are the kulaks of America. Absolutely disgusting. Why Jimmy Kimmel has a show any further is beyond me. Why Margaret Cho will ever get another acting job is beyond me. Until they come out and absolutely apologize for what they've done and said, it's absolutely disgusting to me. I don't understand as Americans where we are. Listen to Jimmy Kimmel's show. Listen to this idiot. I'm like, I couldn't believe when I heard that. And I'm like, they're absolutely normalizing the murder of a 50-year-old father. And they're not calling for any corrections in the healthcare system at all. Nobody is. None of these leftists, as wanted flyers, nobody has a clue in their head about what could be done, anything to do to alleviate the problems in the healthcare system. No, let's just kill each other. That's the answer in this country. The ultimate Marxist goal, right? That's what we're going for. Listen to this moron.
So many women and so many men are going nuts over how good looking this killer is. And there's a huge wave of horny washing over us right now. It's like when one of the guys you work with says, I had a dream about you last night. When it's the FedEx guy with the big muscles and the rolled up sleeves, you're like, oh. But if it's the bald IT guy wearing Crocs with black socks, you're on the phone with HR. It's kind of that same dynamic. Our staff today, I have never experienced anything like this. These are screen grabs of actual exchanges between our members of our staff and their friends, relatives, whatever. I've changed the names to protect the guilty, but let's see. Lorraine C. asks, do you guys think the United Healthcare CEO killer is hot? Friend replies, yes. I love Luigi. I think he's gay, though. This is an exchange between two of our producers. We'll call them Elphaba and Glinda. My TikTok is flooded. My mom chain's going nuts. That's my TikTok. Everyone is obsessed. People are saying a New York jury has the power to find him innocent because we all love him. I'm not mad at him. This one's from Susie D. She got hurt. This text from her mother. Am I the only person wondering that if the gunman had tweezed and reshaped his eyebrows, he would have never been caught? Aha, good point. His eyebrows are very defined. Next one. Please tell me you're as obsessed as I am with this handsome CEO killer. Yes, so many questions. Like, can I fix you?
All right, I'm done with that. But that's disgusting, dude. I mean, that's absolutely. I couldn't believe what I was watching. I was like, not that I watched his show. I seen this on social. I would never watch this loser show ever. But I've seen it on social media. Absolutely crazy.
Well, it's definitely class warfare, right? It comes down to political and economic power in this country, and this kid fits both, right? Politically, it moves in the direction that they want. Economically, he comes from a wealthy family. You know, it really comes down to Marxism. You're right. And what is Marxism ultimately? We talk about, trying to have that income equality and just completely remove the middle class. This is complete class warfare. Right? But it's sick that it's gotten to this point. I mean, these people are crazy. I think it was Logic's Finance who said it here about the Reagan shooting. Was it Logic's Finance? It's comments are flying in. Right. Logic's Finance was John Hinckley a hero for shooting President Reagan? These people are sick and disgusting. Absolutely spot on. This is crazy what this country has come to, brother. The media is almost like the poison. You know, anytime that there's an opportunity, the media just keeps digging in.
Yeah, two more things real quick, and then we got to get off because we have another engagement. But two things. Article comes out from Sue Edelman in the Post. Crazy story. Finance expert, son of a Florida judge, accused of sucker punching New York City eye doctor. Right? So what happens is, and I'm going to put the video up here in a second. Am I up on the screen, Eric? No, I'm not.
Yep, there it is. You're good.
Okay. All right. So if you watch this video, what you're going to see is this gentleman here is an optometrist sitting in a chair. He has a patient there. I believe he's like 62 or 63 years old. He's reviewing a chart. He's with a patient, and watch what happens to him. Watch. This kid just comes in, cracks him from behind, knocks his glasses into his face, knocks him out cold for several minutes. Look, nothing happened. This guy wasn't even interacting with him. Knocks him out cold for several minutes. The guy gets 7 stitches, 63-year-old man. Originally, the report's taken, and it's for assault Two, as it should be. Do you see any reason that this report, that this is not a misdemeanor assault? I just explained to you what it was, right? He comes up, defenseless elderly man, cracks him in the head. The man not only gets knocked unconscious, has to be removed to the hospital, but he also gets 7 stitches on top of that. What kind of assault is? How are you classifying that as a lieutenant or as a cop?
Absolutely. We know it's a felony assault, right? Due to the age disparity, which immediately makes it a felony assault, but also the sustained injury here. He required 7 stitches. I would consider that a serious physical injury. There's no doubt in my mind that you have 2 components here that actually solidify and validate that it's actually a felony assault. And what do you need for an actual felony assault, even without the stitches, is the age disparity. I think the age disparity, is over 60 and under 45. I got to go back to what I haven't looked at it, but even with that, you have the age disparity, but you also have substantial serious physical injury here. Why it's not documented properly, we know why, but also leads to other questions about other crimes that are not being properly documented. I mean, this is something that is going to be prolific, that's going to make the news, and yet it's not being documented properly. We have a major problem when it comes to crime reporting.
It's sick, man. It's absolutely disgusting. I was like nothing. So shout out to Sue Edelman. She calls me. She writes this in there. Retired, and I don't care. Everyone's like, oh, what are you telling anybody that this for? Because you're a bunch of liars. Because if that was my family, I would want justice being done. We used to be a victim-centric police department. What happened to that? What happened to caring about the victim? Like, we're not only harming the victim, we're actually allowing someone to walk around on our streets that's committed crimes. Because what are they going to do with the misdemeanor? They're going to dumb down the misdemeanor to nothing. What would they have done with the felony? They would dumb it down potentially to a misdemeanor. But we're allowing this. Patterns aren't emerging because of the not proper reporting of crime, and this is all being done to make this person who's in charge of New York City, who's running a criminal enterprise in New York City, which is the last topic that we'll get on. But we're to give the perception that crime's down in New York City. So I don't apologize for this. Whoever changed this report, you're full of shit. You're lying. And I know where they're going to go with it. But this is what I said. So Sue asked me, like, what do you think? Retired NYPD Lieutenant John McCarty, who co-hosts a podcast on law enforcement, blasted the switch. There was an intent to cause a serious physical injury, and it caused a serious physical injury. It's a felony assault as clear as day, and there should be investigation as to why it's not, McCarty told the Post. It appears to be a downgrade by someone in the upper echelon looking to keep the crime numbers down, McCarty said, referring to Mayor Eric Adams' mantra that New York City is the safest big city in America. It's perception management, right? Shout out to Marlon Bethel. That's his line that he coined, perception management. But that's exactly what it is. And where I believe where they downgraded it is they said, oh, the intent is not there. We couldn't prove the intent. So I just want to back up on that real quick. Eric, do you see intent in that behavior?
Listen, it's interesting, right? We always see those play on words, right? Because in order to have a crime classification, what has to go with it? The intent, right? Either something's knowingly, or something is reckless, or something's intentional. Those are the culpable mindsets to actually have a crime classification. So there's no doubt in my mind, because one, you can't escape the age disparity. I don't remember what the age disparity is. I actually have to look it up, but I'm pretty sure this actually fits the criteria for the age disparity. So if we actually look into the actual outcome, the serious physical injury of 7 stitches with the intent would absolutely make it felony. So there's no doubt in my mind, the way they downgraded this had to be the intent, the culpable mindset, which would be reckless. I'm sure I would put my money that they changed it. If we ever had an opportunity to actually see this complaint report, I would put my money that it actually says that this was in a reckless manner. There's no doubt in my mind. Mikey G says 62 years older. So here, this fits the age disparity. So why is it not being properly documented on the age disparity?
65. It's 65. It's 65 for a felony for it to also be classified as a.
I got to check what the age. I think it's 65 and someone under 40, right, or 45. I forgot what the age numbers are, but
10 years,
Even-
10 years younger.
10 years younger, right? But even with that, it doesn't matter. The point is we have 7 stitches. That's a serious physical injury. And it's always interesting also when it comes to serious physical injury, I think it's very subjective. I think a serious physical injury, according to age, has differences, right? 7 stitches to someone who's 18 years old might not be as bad, but for someone who's in their 60s, 7 stitches is a big deal. Someone who's in their late ages, God forbid they break a bone, is a very serious injury, could change the trajectory of their life. So this is not handled properly. No shocker there. Even with prior administrations, we've seen the NYPD. I've watched with my own eyes, walking to work, I see a complaint report completely different. So for anyone that's working in crime analysis, don't allow these commanders to have you call complainants the next day and the day after to get a different story when someone's cool and calm. Don't put yourself in that position to coerce a complaint report. We know that's what goes on a lot also. Don't do that to yourself because they're not going to be there for you when you're in handcuffs. Absolutely. This is ridiculous. But again, John, it goes back to the questions that I said before. What other crimes are being changed? Because it's perception versus truth. And this administration wants to change your truth. And they want those crime numbers to be down. And they're significantly up. Check out Sam Antar. Check out Reza Chowdhury. They use their own NYPD numbers to actually show the crime increase and that the crime is not down. It's a complete lie and gaslighting by this administration.
Yeah, and just to back up on it, when I mean investigation, I don't mean investigation stopping at the crime analysis person. I don't mean investigation stopping at the sergeant or the lieutenant. No, I want to know who told them specifically to make the change, and I want that person to be held accountable, and I want that person to tell that commanding officer to tell who in the upper echelon told them. I want the buck to stop with the person who ordered that. I don't want it to stop with the person who did it. Yeah, I want it to go all the way up the chain because it's absolutely ridiculous. We need to go back to being a victim-centric police department. We're obviously not. So this is a little bit of breaking news right here before we get on the next topic. New York City Mayor Eric Adams his campaign was denied matching funds in New York City. Why? Because he's corrupt, because he's dirty, and because of the games he was playing before. He doesn't deserve to get matching funds. So I don't feel bad for him at all. The only person for mayor that was approved matching funds, Scott Stringer, who stood there next to Letitia James while she said that this country was too male, too pale, and too stale. Guess what? He happens to be male, pale, and stale. So I don't know what you were doing, Scott, either. Shout out to Scott, though, for following the Finest Unfiltered. Should Eric Adams got matching funds for his campaign, Eric?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Because what do we see in the past? What do we see? That the money is inaccurate, right? Oh, money has to be returned. We saw it with Miranda, $11,000 loan that he took off donations. So absolutely not should be matching funds. This administration can't be trusted at all. Complete inept when it comes to funds. Not inept because they're morons, inept because they're corrupt. We can't be trusted. The appearance of impropriety is there. Again, this administration is just riddled with spoils, riddled with scoundrel, unscrupulous people. And look, you see it right here. This administration, one after another. What is Eric Adams going to say now? Does Ingrid have some family matters to tend to? Is that why she stepped down? Is that why she resigned? Is that what Eric Adams is going to tell the people? Another lie.
Yeah, so obviously, we've said it before that Eric Adams would be the worst fantasy football manager in the history. He's definitely the worst mayor in the history of New York City. He's the most corrupt mayor in the history of New York City. He's the only indicted mayor in New York City history. And he also made the worst appointments in New York City history as well. So his wartime consigliere, Ingrid Lewis Martin, his top chief advisor, she's been with him the longest serving age. She's been with him throughout his entire reign in politics. The rumor is they haven't been speaking for weeks. Ingrid Lewis Martin, in Eric Adams administration fashion, stepped down over the weekend. Right? Abruptly stepped down over the weekend. She's gone. It's expected for her to be indicted locally, not by the federal government. Eric Adams got big problems, people. So we're gearing up to name Eric Adams Man of the Year January 1st, 2025 for being the first indicted mayor to continue to hold on. But and I still believe he's a favorite to win that Man of the Year award at this point. But his odds are starting to decrease.
You know, when I was in the Marine Corps, and I'm sure, shout out to Ron Lazy, he's probably going to put hashtag EDM. But when I was in the Marine Corps, there was a saying, days are long and weeks are short. And for Eric Adams, these days are long, and I'm sure he wants these weeks to be short because he's got 2 weeks left till we hit the new year for him to make it as Man of the Year. But again, days are long for him. And in the days coming, anything can happen with Ingrid Martin right now. She's got the most vital information. She's close to the chest when it comes to Eric Adams. So, again, like I said, is Eric Adams going to say, hey, she left for family issues? That's always been Eric Adams' his line every time someone steps down. But we're really closing in. We're getting to the new year. It's unfortunate, but I do think he's going to make it. Juju says no episode goes by without Eric mentioning the Marines. That's right. Simplify, Juju. And Juju, make sure you give a donation to the podcast, and make sure you like and subscribe, Juju. Make sure you like and subscribe because you had and you have every opportunity to speak in your First Amendment right has been valued and honored in this space. So, yeah, listen, we're here 2 hours and 15 minutes into it. Like, share, subscribe. Go out and go down to X. Please share this out. Let's build this podcast together. Let's build this network. But again, going back to what we're talking about here, Ingrid Martin is as close to Eric Adams as anyone can be, as close as Philip Banks. She has a lot of information to the chest, and she said it before. Right? This seems to be over the top, right? For the information that they're being indicted for. That it seems to be too much. She never said they're not guilty. But she says that this probe just seems to be too much for the crimes that are being questioned here. So again, you know, what information does Ingrid Martin have, and could she take this thing down by January 1st? Who knows?
Listen, it's not just her. You know, he's created a lot of enemies in his own camp. You know, and let's not forget about oh man, I can't even think of her name right now. But his other advisor, the chief behind his number three, actually. No, his number two, because Ingrid Lewis was his number one, his number two, Sheena Wright. Remember, she left abruptly too over the weekend, and she put out that scathing post with the song, I'll Tell Them. Right? He's got big problems. This article is from Politico. Ingrid Lewis Martin, who engineered Eric Adams' rise from police captain to mayor of the nation's largest city, is abruptly resigning from City Hall. Her departure takes effect immediately, comes at a precarious time for the mayor. He's heading to a trial for a 5-count federal indictment to which he pleaded not guilty and is up for re-election next year. Lewis Martin herself is being eyed by local enforcement in a separate matter. Prosecutors from Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg's office have presented evidence to her grand jury and could bring an indictment as soon as this week. New York Times reported Sunday after his story was initially published. Her lawyer, Arthur Aidala, and City Hall spokesperson Fabian Levy declined to comment on the grand jury. Few, if any, had been as close and loyal to the enigmatic mayor as the Brooklyn-based chaplain whose husband was a friend in the NYPD. Ingrid has not just been a friend and a confidant and trusted advisor, but also a sister, Adams said in a statement to Politico. We've always talked about when this day would come, and while we've long planned for it, it's still hard to know that Ingrid won't be right next door every day. Ingrid Lewis Mayer, 63, said she will retire and spend time with the family. She is not expected to work on Adams' re-election campaign. And you remember on the radio show, in September, she even said that she had been planning to retire in the second week in January. But that Adams indictment and all the investigation to his inner circle might keep her around longer because I'm going to be right with my brother. So, I mean, I don't know. It doesn't look good for him, you know. And if she has a problem locally, Eric Adams distancing himself from the Democrats, he could have a big problem because even if he does end up with getting pardoned federally, it's not going to help him locally.
You know, John, they say in the South, rattlesnakes don't commit suicide. Looks like they're starting to shake up here. You know, I think the lines of loyalty could break and they could be very thin, unlike what Eric Adams believes. You the stronghold that he has over his people in this administration, I think that's starting to break. I think that those lines of loyalty are really starting to break because everyone in this administration sees Eric Adams' response. And Eric Adams' response has been MAGA Eric. Post-indictment Eric has been about Eric. Change politics, change course, to get yourself a pardon. And that change could actually lose the bonds that he has with his friends. So Ingrid Martin, she could be the thorn in his side right now. Could he make it to the first? Listen, like I said, days are long, weeks are short. There's maybe long days coming for Eric Adams. I still think he's going to make it to the first. I think he's going to make it. He's going to be man of the year for the finest Unfiltered. But 2025 is going to be a very interesting time for him. I do think he's going to make it. So my money says Eric Adams, man of the year, finest Unfiltered.
Yeah. All right, people. We just went down on X. I'm not sure what that was, but whatever it is. Something with StreamYard or X. StreamYard just notified me that it's X. I don't know. I don't care. Whatever it is, it is. But listen, we appreciate you guys joining us today. As always, we'll be back tomorrow, live 8:05. Eric, you got anything on that one?
Yeah, listen, we'll be back tomorrow morning. Thank you so much, friends and listeners to the podcast, building this network together. Again, we ask you like, share, subscribe, let your friends know. Put them onto the podcast, have them like and subscribe. We have a lot of law enforcement officers, especially for the NYPD, that are actually afraid to like and subscribe. Think about that. Put that into perspective. We have drones flying around. We're not getting information cause fear and panic. And while you're working in law enforcement, you have fear and panic on your First Amendment right. Don't allow that to happen anymore. Be your own person. Be a human. You deserve it. God bless. See you tomorrow morning, everyone. Even Juju, 8:05 live. And for me, 5:05, still dark outside on the Pacific Coast. Take care, everybody.
There's a handful of retired officers that don't live in the state that have a lot to say about the dream team, as I like to call it. All of a sudden, they retire and have a master plan on how to fight crime, but nothing to contribute when they were here. They want to come back and be part of the dream team. What can I say?
Law enforcement professionals dedicate their lives to serving and protecting our community, but who's protecting their financial futures? That's where Laidlaw Blue comes in. Our wealth management platform is specifically designed for the law enforcement community. Laidlaw Blue is a division within Laidlaw Wealth Management, run by retired New York City detective John McDermott. His status as a retired detective uniquely positions him to establish a deep connection between Laidlaw Blue and the law enforcement community. Our platform is easy to use and provides a range of financial services, including investment management, retirement planning, and insurance solutions. With Laidlaw Blue, you can secure your financial future and provide for your loved ones. Our team of experienced financial advisors understands the unique challenges and opportunities that law enforcement professionals face. We're here to help you navigate the complexities of financial planning and achieve your goals. Laidlaw Blue. Secure your financial future today. Book a meeting using the QR code displayed or call us directly on 888 901 Blue. That's 888 901 Blue.